Today, with the help of our expert speakers, you will receive information on the INNOQUA project, Romanian and Turkish demo sites, and also nature-based solutions in Southeast Europe and Turkey. Furthermore, we will have the opportunity to discuss on commercial experience and opportunities, as well as research experience and opportunities. The final portion of the event, it's dedicated to a panel discussion where we will have the chance to share experiences and also opinions. So before we start for our first project, I would like to thank you all for your participation, of course. Right now you all have the panelist privileges, so you can speak whenever. But I would like to ask for you to all mute yourselves during the presentations. But you also have the opportunity to upload your questions to the question and answer section of the Zoom that you can find down on your screen. So I would like to introduce our first speaker, Costel Bumbac. He's a senior research scientist from ECOIND, which is a research institute focusing on the area of environmental protection, including urban and industrial wastewater treatment. Costel is also the pilot and demonstration manager of the INNOQUA project. He will give the introductory talk on wastewater treatment in region, opportunities for decentralized nature-based solutions for wastewater treatment. Costel, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I am Costel Bumbac. I'm a research scientist, as Özge said, within the Environmental Technology and Technology Transfer Department of ECOIND Romania, and demonstration manager for the INNOQUA project. ECOIND Romania is a national research and development organization dedicated to environmental research and services, providing services in the field of pollution control, environmental monitoring, impact assessment, ecotoxicity studies, air, water, wastewater, and soil treatment and waste management. I will give a short introduction. I'm afraid it will be a little boring with facts and figures on the status of wastewater treatment at European level, with a slight focus on Southeastern European countries, aiming to identify the opportunities for decentralized wastewater treatment and, moreover, suitability of adopting nature-based solutions to address this matter. This is the overall image provided by Eurostat for 2017, describing the urban wastewater collected and the level of treatment applied as a percentage of the population. Orange bars represent sewage collected but not treated before discharge. Yellow bars represent primary treatment such as settling, for example. Light green bars represent secondary treatment to reduce dissolved and suspended organic compounds, such as those using biological methods, while dark green bars represents more stringent tertiary treatment, mainly to reduce nutrients. The treatment of urban wastewater from our homes and workplaces is fundamental to ensuring public health and environmental quality. So the main objective of the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive and equivalent national legislation from non-European countries is to protect the environment, specifically surface waters, from the adverse effects of water discharges. The Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive covers agglomerations over 2,000 people equivalent. In most cases, it stipulates that wastewater must be subjected to biological treatment, secondary treatment, but in catchments with particularly sensitive areas, such as those suffering from eutrophication, more stringent tertiary wastewater treatment may be required to substantially reduce nitrogen and phosphorus pollution. In 2017, most countries collected and treated urban wastewater from at least 80% of their population. Some countries are still building treatment facilities with just 50 to 55% of the population currently connected. In countries such as Albania, Croatia, and Romania, between 60 to 70% of the population are connected in Bosnia and Herzegovina, even Ireland, Italy, Serbia, and Slovakia, while in Bulgaria, Lithuania, Poland, and Slovenia, between 71 to 76% of the total population are connected to urban wastewater treatment. There are several countries where more than 40% of the population were served by treatment below tertiary level in 2017, such as Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Ireland, Malta, Portugal, Serbia, Slovakia, Turkey, and the UK. Some of these countries are islands, which have long coastlines and have designated only fractions of their territory as sensitive areas, while others are candidates countries and potential candidates of the European Union. Wastewater is treated to a tertiary level, for example, to remove nitrogen and phosphorus, which otherwise can cause nutrient pollution. In EU 27 countries, almost 70% of the total population were connected to tertiary treatment facilities. Tertiary treatment was widespread already in place in a few countries by the 1990s, in countries such as Finland, Germany, Sweden, and Switzerland. In several older EU member states, significant efforts to improve levels of treatment were undertaken during the 1990s and 2000s in countries such as Austria, Belgium, Denmark, Greece, Netherlands, Portugal, or Spain. While in recent years, investment in the treatment of urban wastewater, particularly in the newer EU member states, has been directed at higher level treatment in countries like Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Estonia, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, even Romania and Slovenia. This may reflect that these countries have designated their entire territory or most of their territory, such as the case of Slovenia, as sensitive areas, which leads to the obligation under the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive to treat the wastewater more stringently in agglomerations over 10,000 people equivalent. In most cases, it is possible to see the building of collection facilities, increasing the proportion of the population connected and the level of treatment provided becoming higher. At the same time, the decline in collection without treatment or primary treatment is replaced by light and dark green bars, signifying the secondary and tertiary treatment. The adoption of the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive in 1991 promoted the improvement of urban wastewater treatment in the older European member states. As new member states joined, they improved collection and treatment, often rather rapidly. For example, Bulgaria, Croatia, Hungary, or Poland. Implementation has been strongly supported by European Union cohesion policy, with impressive funds provided for the wastewater sector since 2000. This chart summarizes the type of treatment applied in the urban wastewater treatment plants of big cities in 2016, where big cities mean urban settlements of over 150,000 people equivalent. Of the total load generated by larger cities, 86% receives more stringent treatment, typically to remove nitrogen and phosphorus, and may also include disinfection, while 10% of the total load receives only secondary treatment, and 1% of the total load of all big cities receive only primary treatment, while less than half percent is neither collected nor treated. The large and medium-sized population agglomerations were the first being provided by treatment infrastructures according to the directive schedule. Meanwhile, the smaller population agglomerations with less than 2,000 population equivalent have been pushed into the background. The European 27 was 109 inhabitants per square kilometers in 2018. Almost 2/3 of it's very sparsely populated, characterized by a population density less than 1/3 of the European average, which is marked in blue. On the other hand, less than 10%, as shown by the two darkest shades of orange, were home to more than 2/3 of the European population, their average population density being over 1,000 inhabitants per square kilometers, or nine times higher than the European average. Where there is a low proportion of population connected to wastewater treatment facilities, it may be because of lack of financial resources or priority for providing sanitation services, low population density, or too high a proportion of the population living outside agglomerations. This low level of connection to wastewater treatment system is caused by a combination of the three factors mentioned earlier, especially the low population density and the high proportion of the population living outside agglomeration. For the case of Romania, approximately half of the population lives in a rural environment, and only 10% of them are connected to central wastewater treatment systems. In dispersed communities, wastewater collection infrastructure may prove prohibitive in terms of cost, and the cheaper alternative could be the installation of several individual or group or cluster sanitation systems adapted to local conditions. Once the issue of big contributors to pollution load dischargers is solved, the agglomeration above 150,000 people equivalent and above 10,000 people equivalent, the focus of investment will be the smaller agglomerations of 2 to 10,000 people equivalent and less, in order to achieve the urban wastewater treatment objectives, and why not the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 6, sanitation for all. A combination of drivers, including utility market restructuring, water and wastewater directives, and improved efficiency, have encouraged cities and public water utilities to resume the most aggressive investment programs Europe has seen since 2007. Bluefield Research anticipates annual water infrastructure investment to increase by 23% from 46 billion in 2015 to 57 billion euros in 2025. In many countries, small communities are required to treat wastewater discharges to increasing standards of lesser environmental impact, but must achieve the goal at locally sustainable costs. While biological treatment activated sludge or membrane bioreactors are quickly becoming the industry standard for centralized wastewater treatment plants and would also be ideally suited also for small plants, its investments and operation costs are usually too high for that class of application. It is not always appropriate to connect to the public wastewater treatment system, for instance, in remote areas or scattered communities with low population density. Suitable alternatives to connection to the public sewage system may include individual sanitation systems, packaged wastewater treatment plants, or nature-based solutions such as Vermic filters, drain fields, and even septic tanks with regular removal of solid waste would be better than nothing. Consequently, small treatment plants are generally configured as anoxic or aerated biological tanks with little sedimentation, making them quite susceptible to hydraulic load changes, sludge quality changes, and consequently performance loss. As ecological, on-site, low-cost and sustainable alternatives, nature-based sanitation solutions may be used as being more reliable on longer term, such as Vermic filters or constructed wetland systems, which are gradually and successfully being introduced in some countries. The lumber filter, as developed within the INNOQUA project, is a reactor-based technology operated as a trickling filter. The reactor is filled with successive layers of materials with different functions from bottom to top river pebbles in two size ranges as draining support, wood chips or coconut husk chips, or even wood shavings as active layer for microbial biofilm, and home for the earthworm population. The earthworms we used were indigenous species. Mostly used have been Eisenia fetida and Eisenia andrae. The influent is being sprayed on top of the active layer and passes through the active layer where bacteria removes dissolved nutrients, while earthworms provide the service of consuming the TSS and regulate the microbial biomass so that clogging of the system is avoided. There are many commercially available alternatives of the Vermic filtration technology, including the INNOQUA filter, each with its specific advantages and disadvantages, and adapted to different wastewater quality contexts, able to meet various discharge standards. Constructed wetlands are designed to use the natural functions of wetland vegetations, soil and their microbial population to treat wastewater. Even though sometimes natural-based solutions represent a more expensive approach for wastewater treatment, analyzing the merits and drawbacks of the various NBS in view of their sustainability potential might lead to the conclusion that natural-based solution could be the way forward towards the goal of sanitation for all. Encouraging the development of local water cycle clusters with local reuse and recycle of the resources, and possibly local recovery of energy and or materials. This is the details. These are the details of the INNOQUA project. Details of each of the demo site managers, project webpage, and social media links. I would be happy to answer any question if you have.
We will also have some more chances for us to ask some questions to Costel. I don't know if there was anybody who would like to address some questions at this point. If no, Costel, thank you. I think this presentation clearly shows the grounds to work on sustainable and affordable solutions, especially for dispersed communities. So in an attempt to tackle this problem, INNOQUA project investigates the applicability and potential for nature-based decentralized solutions. So I would like to welcome Mr. Germain Adell, who is not only the project coordinator of INNOQUA project, but also the Deputy General Manager for International Strategy and Business Development at NOBATEK in F4. It's a private RTO that aims to co-develop innovative solutions to assist construction sector for greater energy efficiency and sustainable design. And he will be introducing INNOQUA project and its demonstration strategy that we applied throughout the project itself. So Germain, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Özge. Good morning to everyone. So, well, as Özge has said, the intent here is to explain a little bit our approach. Let's say, I would say, our innovation approach to this project. So, how this project came to reality, and what was the general intent and the general strategy of developing a modular bio-based sanitation system. I will share my screen. I hope it works. Is that okay?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Here we are. I don't know if it's the right thing to do. That's it. So our commitment from the start, it was as we said before, and it's nice to have had Costel presentation before, because I think he has clearly demonstrated the interest and the need for such decentralized sanitation system, not only in European context, but also and perhaps moreover for the global south, So we all know the sanitation problems in big parts of the development countries. So we thought from the very start that this was really the thing to do. So with the motto "Sanitation for All," of course, we were committed to create a project that could deliver a very robust solution to that. But let's say that the history of the project is that, well, of course, this is an Horizon 2020 project, as you see in the bottom of the slide. The first, I think it's important to know the internal history of it. So the first attempt to do this project was in 2012. So we almost with the same partners we end up doing the project. We tried once, and so the first INNOQUA proposal, and we were well ranked, but finally didn't get funded at the time. And so we insisted in 2016, and at that time we finally got funded, and with a very little changes to both to the project and to the consortium. So this proves that if you have something in mind and you know it's true, it's worthwhile to try sometimes a second or third chance, because it can work. So this is a 4 years research and development project, so an innovation action for Horizon 2020 jargon. And so this in this picture you see we are 20 partners from quite different horizons. And you can see in all our projects, we try to really develop the value chain perspective. We like, sometimes we end up having very big consortia, but we really believe that in order to develop an innovation, you need really to have represented in the consortium all the value chain, because each actor from different sections of the value chain will bring knowledge, needs, requirements to the project. So you don't take for granted anything, because you have a specific representative in the consortium that bring the specific needs. So we have some RTOs as NOBATEK. We are an RTO devoted mainly to the construction sector, to architecture, sustainable architecture, urban planning, energy efficiency, nature-based solutions. And also we have another RTO, which is EURECAT from Catalonia. We have some knowledge provider. The other knowledge providers are also, so we have NUIG University, NUIG Galway University, and Girona University. So some knowledge providers, NOBATEK, which had developed the Lombric filtration knowledge during the years, and ECOIND, also another RTO from Romania, from which Costel is the representative. Then we had technology providers. So because this is a modular system, so we join effort at the moment of creating the layout for the project. We found out that we were some technology providers trying to push our systems, and we end up thinking and creating a project where, in a modular way, we could really put all of them together. So basically, NOBATEK with the Lombric filtration, University of Girona with the Daphnia Filter, Heliopure Technologies with the biosolar purification, and Berson UV with already in the market ultraviolet technology to end up the purification process. So also we had specific partners bringing exploitation and market knowledge as Circuit Solution, Aquanviro, and Yes Innovation, Grace Lopez from Ecuador. Then we had a lot of integrators. So we have integrated each module in a full, almost I would say, industrialized system. We are not at the end of the project. We are not fully scaled up system, but I mean we cannot just right now go to the market, but we end up the project very close with some of the technologies very close to the market. And this is also thanks to REDI, so which is an Italian industrial from the sector of sanitation seats. So they are a pure player in sanitation system. Also, we had some partners bringing developing countries expertise, as you say here, but at the end of the day, you see the consortium is quite balanced with different kind of expertise and knowledge. So to develop the system, of course, we need not only the technologies we are bringing in, the technical aspect, but of course we have had to devote some time and effort to define the adapt specification, not only for the general system, but also taking into account the context and the market context of our possible system for each of those contexts. So these include market studies, social acceptance, legal requirement, and user, elicitation of requirements, even participation of the local population and taking into account their needs, and of course the environmental and cost assessment. I have to say that this system, one of the main features is that the environmental impact is really low, because mainly we produce a very slow amount of sludge, and also their natural processes. This one was one of our main features, and we have been able to confirm that this system works well in that sense. So we have 4 technologies, and from that we brought from the concept to an industrialized product. So you see here the Lombre filter, the Daphnia filters, the biosolar purification, and the last stage with the UV filter. So here are the technologies. So I won't comment a lot on them, but well, the Lombre filter has been slightly presented by Costel, but it's a primary and secondary treatment based on the activity of earthworms and bacteria. The Daphnia filter, so it's a tertiary treatment. So for us, we had the modular technologies where we have always had the Lombre filter as a first stage. Then we have Daphnia filter. With Daphnia is a little are a little crustaceous that can consume. So they feed themselves with a very fine suspended solid. And then so we have the alternative of use Daphnia filter or biosolar purification, which was is an innovative treatment using the solar activity and biofilm, of course, biofilm microalgae that removed some nutrients and pollutants, and then when needed, we can have at the last stage the UV disinfection. So all this makes a modular system that, of course, at a certain moment we have had to plan how we demonstrate it. So here you see this was already demanded or suggested by the topic at the time. The topic suggested that we could invite extra European partners, and so we really did that. We went for that because we consider that the sanitation is a global problem. so at the end of the day, we ended up with a strategy which was twofold. First of all, we started with a non-controlled, a controlled environment testing and development phase that was performed both in Ireland and Spain. In Ireland, by NUI Galway, so National University Ireland Galway, and in Spain by University of Girona. So there we installed the first prototypes of the full modular system were installed there in a controlled environment. That means that we could really control the quality of the water, and we had a full source of local wastewater sewage system bringing the water to our system, so we could control the input, and also, of course, controlling the output very closely and making necessary changes to the system before. So this started before the demonstration phase, which is you can see here. So we have pilots in Ireland itself, in Ecuador. So this is Filter in Ireland, Ecuador. In Italy, Filter plus UV rays. In France, Romania, and Scotland, we have Filter, but plus Daphnia Filter. In Tanzania and Turkey, we have Filter, Daphnia Filter, and UV, and so on and so forth. So these are our 11 demonstration sites. And as you see, also it was important to check if our system was able to penetrate, so to bring something interesting to different global markets. So of course, sanitation problems in India, which are really very acute. And also, so we had, thanks to Borda, which is a German ONG active in developing countries, we have had the possibility to have demo cases in India and Tanzania. And then also in Latin America, in Ecuador and Peru, we also have this. So this beside our demonstration sites in Europe. So here you see with more detail the 11 demo sites, the partner responsible for them, the location, the wastewater origin, and the wastewater type. Here I want to extend a lot more on this. And so, and as an example, I will just show some of the demonstration and development cases. So this one was in Ireland at the NUIG premises. So here you have it really close to a local sanitation, so urban scale sanitation system. So our filtration you see there in green. So of course we had all the wastewater we needed, and so the NUIG worked with the full system and worked testing it, developing the substrate and let's say gathering scientific information on the system and testing different solutions. So here you can see what they worked. This was their testing of different layers of wood chips or substrate. So it was really very thoroughly analyzed and developed by NUIG. So we ended up improving the first idea we had as technology provider, thanks to the help of NUIG and other partners. They had also an agricultural demo site, so cattle farming. This is one of the examples of domestic wastewater. So this is a villa in the seaside in Italy. So we have this configuration. Here, this is NOBATEK. So you see our main building, our headquarters in the south of France. So we had the system installed in our premises, so attached to a tertiary building. And here in the picture you see I am the project coordination, but I have had these two guys helping me, Jean-Baptiste, which has really be the project manager of INNOQUA and has taken the most of the project on his shoulder, and Alex also his who is another engineer working with him. So they couldn't attend today, but they were very good at managing the project. Here is the case of India. So in Bangalore, so here you see it's a complex solution where we had the lombrifiltration, the Daphnia filter, and also UV purification and biosolar purification and UV. So we have the full system working here, really nearby a local small domestic neighborhood. So this was a very nice pilot site. I'm not commenting on the results. If you have any question, Costel will be more than able to comment. And perhaps, Costel, I would like you to comment. The last two slides are more the results of the pilot sites. If you don't mind, because you have been, Costel has been the pilot manager of the full project, and I think he's more qualified than myself to comment on the last two slides, which are the summary of what the project team found out after the demonstration phase. Costel, are you okay with that? Would you like to comment on this?
Yes, of course.
Thank you very much. So I leave you the floor to these two last slides.
Okay, thank you very much. So the lessons learned from all the 11 demonstration sites were that for the lombrifilter itself, which is the core technology of the project of the INNOQUA system, the modular natural-based solution we offered, is that the lombrifilter is a very low maintenance system, meaning that within more than 1 year of operation of the demo site in normal operation conditions, the systems need only to be occasionally top up with wood chips to keep the height of the active layer to at least 1 meter height. And also the lombrifilter proved very robust in terms of hydraulic load fluctuation, large fluctuation, meaning that it was able to cope even with higher hydraulic loads than designed, up to double the design parameters in terms of hydraulic load, and also was very robust in terms of no flow for long periods of time, as we had the opportunity to experience due to COVID crisis. There were some demo sites where, for example, in NOBATEK, the COVID crisis forced the workers to work from home, thus leaving the lombrifilter at the NOBATEK offices without any wastewater for more than 2 months. And once the system was restarted and fed again, the performances were recovered really fast. On the other hand, can you pass the next slide, Germain? On the other hand, Daphnia Filter requires a little detailed attention at startup, as Daphnias are known to be sensitive species. They are usually used in ecotoxicity studies. And at the same time, the coexistence of macroalgae or even water plants in the Daphnia filter improves the reactor nutrient uptake rates. On the other hand, the performances of the biosolar purification, which is the microalgae-based wastewater polishing step as module in the INNOQUA system, the performances of the BSP are dependent on maintenance, meaning that the biofilm of the microalgae biofilm should be occasionally racked and removed in order to keep the nutrient uptake rate, as the main mechanism of nutrient uptake in the microalgae-based wastewater treatment system is by biomass uptake. This is pretty much all.
Thank you very much, Kostel.
Welcome.
So this is it. So here you have a picture of the full team in Romania. Our site managers for all the demo sites, and in the final word is first of all, as coordinator, I thank you all the team, all the project team, all our consortium members, because they have done a very important and very professional work in developing the system. At the end of the day, we end up the project with well, all the system had been tested. We had, so the history is long, but for instance, with biosolar purification, we started with the system, then one of the partner crashed, and so we had to keep on developing. NOBATEK, ECOIND developed another version of the biosolar purification system. So at the end of the day, as Kostel has said, the Daphnia filter is more sensitive, so it's still. So what I mean is that we end up the project with different modules have different, let's say, virtues and problems by themselves. Also, they are at different, perhaps, distance from the final market. But the interesting thing is that all the partners are committed to keep on working on the system. So we have decided to create what we call the INNOQUA Alliance, which is, as you know, the project is finishing now. And so we are committed to keep on working with us to help each other in order to push the system to when needed, the last stage of development before reaching the market, and of course, pushing the system to the market. We strongly believe that what we do has sense if we bring a final product to the market, to the market or the markets, let's say, in different countries. So this is, for me, this is a proof that the European Commission funding research and development can bring something very concrete and real in order to respond to the needs of the people, not only in Europe but worldwide. So thank you very much, and if you have any question, we will be happy to answer. Thank you.
Moving on to another excellent presentation, as I hand over to our host for today, Özge. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, and please, the floor is now yours. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you. So one quick announcement from my side. So this is kind of Murphy's Law. I lost the power at my house right now, so I'm connected through my phone. So if there are any problems with the presentation, with my voice or the video that I'm about to show, please let me know. We can stop and just try another time, but hopefully everything will work. So as I very briefly introduce myself, my name is Özge Yilmaz. So I'm working with Ekodenge. We are an SME in Turkey. We are coordinating the Turkish demo site in Sinop. What we have done during the project, we were supposed to have some open days. So invite local stakeholders that might be interested in, replication of the system where we have implemented already. And in fact, try to get some attention from other stakeholders that we can, convince them to try INNOQUA project, some other places, some other regions in Turkey. So Germain is quite right about our commitment to the project. Although we are at the end, we are very much committed to it, and we would like to see INNOQUA system to be implemented in other places because we are very much also convinced about its applicability and affordability. The low maintenance aspect of it, we have already seen it. So because of the COVID situation, we were not able to, set up open days, but what we have done was to shoot a small video, a virtual tour of our demo site, and I'm about to show it to you.
The SINOP demonstration is to assess the potential of INNOQUA technologies in residential housing, as well as potential for reuse in irrigation. Our system here includes a lumber filter, a Daphnia filter, and a UV unit. The INNOQUA system is located in a housing complex with 8 detached houses and hosts up to 55 people. The wastewater is of domestic origin, coming from the bathrooms, toilets, and kitchens. And the INNOQUA system here has a design capacity of 3 meter cubes per day. And the lumber filter presented the benefit of reduced maintenance and operational costs. Throughout the operation, even with varying quantities of wastewater, the lumber filter has proven itself to be highly resilient. Daphnia Filter performed an important role as an innovative bio-based tertiary treatment, which avoided use of chemicals for treatment and also supported the reuse of treated wastewater on site. Turkish regulations on water and wastewater are especially strict in terms of the presence of pathogens if the wastewater is to be reused for irrigation. With this UV unit, we were able to disinfect the treated wastewater, comply with the regulations and ensure safety of the reuse.
Burası 8 evlik bir site. Şehirden epey uzağız. Kanalizasyon sistemimiz yok. Yapacağız. Denize de çok yakınız ya da yakın bir geçmişe kadar o septik çukurla idare etmeye çalışıyorduk. Bir tarafta da gördüğünüz gibi güzel bir meyve bahçemiz var. Ortalığı da kirletmek istemiyoruz. INNOQUA projesinin ile birlikte bu bize olağanüstü bir imkan sağladı. Çıkan berrak bir su tertemiz ve bunu bahçe sulamasında kullanıyoruz. Denizi kirletmiyoruz, çevreyi kirletmiyoruz. Bu açıdan çok mutluyuz.
So this portion of the conference, it's dedicated to us, Costel and me, trying to give you some information about our respective demo sites. So I will start with Turkey, and Costel will go on with the Romanian demo site. So SINOP is located on the northern tip of Turkey. It's on the Black Sea coast. It has a population about 200,000 people living in the city center and nearby villages. Almost 90% of the population have access to the sewage system, but 10% of the population use septic tanks as their main form of sanitation. The septic tanks, usually they infiltrate into the water, so we can easily say that the water is infiltrating into the groundwater without any treatment. So instead of the wastewater in the septic tanks being collected, it goes into the ground infiltrated. So our beneficiary was this site, which hosts up to 55 people. It's a residential complex with 8 detached houses. The site owners, they are very, aware of the possible environmental pollution they might be creating while living in this housing complex. It's actually a new complex being established, so there was some settlements started at the beginning of the project, but we did not reach full settlement. So not all the houses were occupied until the end of the project. So this site is still under development, but they wanted to make sure that a treatment, an affordable treatment system was ready on site for them to be using. The system that we implemented on site, as you have seen on the video, it has a capacity of 3 meter cube per day. So the source of the wastewater is very domestic. What we wanted to do to assess the potential of the INNOQUA technology to be implemented in residential housing. Of course, one interesting point for this demo site was the site owners really wanted to use the wastewater after treatment for irrigation purposes. They had some orchards, and they have some green areas that they wanted to use the wastewater for irrigation. For this purpose, it was found out that the best configuration was to use the lumber filter, the Daphnia filter, and the UV purification. So disinfection was especially necessary for the reasons because the Turkish legal limits for reuse of wastewater is rather strict, so we needed some sort of disinfection at the end of the treatment. As I said, unfortunately, not all the houses were occupied throughout our demonstration, so the influence was significantly lower in terms of both concentration and volume expected. And also one side information, Sinop, the Black Sea region in Turkey, it receives a lot of rain throughout the year, especially in autumn and winter, it receives a lot of rain. So we also have a lot of stormwater, rainwater infiltrating into the sewage that also caused the concentration to go even lower. After the first 160 days, we needed to find a solution. So the influent was supplemented with domestic wastewater from external source, meaning that we needed to carry some raw domestic wastewater from other sources to the site for system to be operational. But instead of reaching up to 3 meter cube per day, our average flow rate was around 500 liters per day, and the average hydraulic loading rates were also a little bit lower than what we were expecting. The lumber filter, we put it into operation in July 2019. In general, the lumber filter was observed to be highly resilient to variable conditions. And on top of the lack of wastewater, we also had to go through the COVID situation, the lockdowns and everything. So the site was almost empty because the residents weren't able to travel to their, this is kind of like a summer house for them. So they were not able to travel at all, but particularly during the COVID-19 lockdown, we have seen that the lumber filter is very resilient and very, very robust. Regarding the analysis results, the performance in the demo site seems sufficient, especially for lumber filter to provide the primary and secondary treatment that it needed to provide. And our second system, the Daphnia filter, it was put into operation a little bit later in November 2019. The removal rates were variable during the demonstration phase because the consistency of the wastewater and the COVID, it actually impacted Daphnia filter a little bit worse than lumber filter. So we have received less than expected removal rates due to underloading, which caused problems in sustaining sufficient population of Daphnia. So this Daphnia being a little bit vulnerable, more vulnerable than lumber filter, we have experienced it. So it was a little bit hard for us in our case to sustain the sufficient populations. The UV system has been working on and off because this was kind of a learning experience for us, the UV system. When it's working, we had double of glitches throughout our demonstration phase, which needed replacement of the UV lamp once. And right now we are dealing with sort of an electrical issue in the UV system. But when it is working, it's very easy to operate. No need for any experience in operating the UV system itself. So the removal rates were fairly constant except for the days with extreme presence of population. Sometimes that happened. The maintenance were required, as I said, twice. So when we look at the system performance overall, the average performance, so we have seen removal of total suspended solids, VOD5, COD, ammonia, and total phosphorus. Also, turbidity was reduced because of the treatment in the system. And we, of course, seen removal of fecal coliforms because of the disinfection. So I will just give you a brief summary of the removal performance. Let's say the lumber filter presented significant average removals for ammonia and turbidity, and also TSS, BOD5, and COD were removed. Although lumber filter was not specifically designed to eliminate phosphorus, the efficiencies for this parameter averaged around 48%, which was very good news, because if the lumber filter is without to be used with another tertiary treatment option, it can still remove some nutrients. Daphnia filter contributed to removal of all parameters, including turbidity. So we have seen that the combination of lumber filter and Daphnia filter was effective in terms of removing the key parameters that are desired to be reduced according to our legislation. An average of 1.6 log removal was achieved in the UV unit. So in the end, we are sure that with more constant wastewater, with the correct concentrations, because we have already seen that in the controlled environment experiments, the removal rates are very satisfactory. So even with the problems that we have on site, we have seen significant removal despite our conditions. So what were the practical issues that we encountered during operation? Lack of wastewater and inflow was a problem. We remedied it with the transfer of wastewater from external sources, but of course there might be other maybe solutions, because we were discussing, maybe since these are earthworms, they are, to be honest, they are magnificent in terms of, you know, consuming almost everything. So there might be other solutions to keep them alive, even if in future years on site there might be some lack of wastewater itself. We had some clogging in the lumber filter inlet, but that was remedied very easily with alternative inlet configuration. That was one day's work for us, so it was very easy to handle these type of situations with the lumber filter. We had a little problem with the submergence of the UV lamp. It's always need to be submerged in water, so we just needed to reposition the pipes. That was very sufficient to solve the problem. So the thing is, except for the wastewater situation, whichever operational problems we had, it was easily remedied. So thank you for your attention. I hope quality of the video and my sound and the presentation was good enough for you. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer. If not, you can always ask questions in our past panel and a question and answer session. Thank you very much. So I will just stop sharing, and then I will move on to introducing, yes, David, hi.
Yeah, just a quick question, Özge, if I might, just on turbidity. So do your regulations have turbidity limits for any discharge from centralized and decentralized systems? It doesn't matter, it's the set that there's a limit on turbidity. Is that correct?
No, it's usually more related to the receiving environment. For example, if you are doing for example, deep sea discharges allowed in Turkey. That's why many of the coastal towns in Turkey, they are discharging to sea. So if you're discharging into a surface water, then the quality should be different. So it depends on the receiving environment rather than being centralized or decentralized. And also, they are trying to implement sort of this, you know, the limits based on the vulnerabilities of the receiving environment, especially if, for example, there are too much already nutrients in the receiving water body, then the limits should be even lower. So this type of changes happens, but not because of the capacity or it's being central or decentralized. All right, so we move on to I believe it's Costel's turn again. Costel now, for the last presentation before our break, he will deliver his presentation on the Romanian demo site, the overview and performance. Costel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Özge. So I will try to be short and give a brief presentation of the demo site in Romania. As I said earlier this morning, almost half of the Romanian population lives in rural areas, and only 10% of this population is connected to centralized wastewater collection and treatment systems. The demo site in Romania is located in Ilişești, which is a small village of 2,400 inhabitants in the region of Bukovina, located on the northern slopes of the Central Eastern Carpathians. It's a very touristic area. Rural tourism has blossomed in this region during recent years, creating a potential niche market for decentralized wastewater treatment solutions. The INNOQUA system initially treated the wastewater from a touristic building, gathering the wastewater from 10 guest rooms, a restaurant of maximum 100 seats, and a conference hall of about 40 places, and some small offices, administrative offices. After 4 months of operation, our local project partner needed more office space for the administrative staff of their growing waste management and recycling business. Thus, the touristic building has been converted to an office building, accommodating 30 staff. The treated wastewater is being discharged into the nearby river. The source of wastewater originally was toilets, showers, grey water from the restaurant and kitchen. And after the conversion, the office building, the sources were mainly toilets, grey water from the restaurant kitchen. The Romanian demo site aims to demonstrate the long-term performance and suitability of decentralized wastewater treatment in real operational conditions with extremes of temperature from -25 during wintertime to +25 during summertime, with an annual average of only 7.9 degrees. In such conditions, wastewater treatment would typically be installed underground. However, to keep the possibilities of technical adjustments and dissemination to larger audience and showcasing, the INNOQUA system has been installed in an above-ground insulated biofilter room located next to an industrial building. The INNOQUA system installed in Romania consists of a pre-settler, a lambda filter, and the Daphnia filter, all monitored by a monitoring and control unit. Before INNOQUA, the wastewater on the premises was collected and discharged after a septic tank within the nearby river. We installed the system next to the existing sewer line serving the premises, diverting the flow towards the INNOQUA system. The water is being pumped on top of the lambda filter, which is the core technology of the INNOQUA system. Afterwards, the water is being repumped to the Daphnia filter. So the effluent is being sprayed on top of the active layer of the lambda filter and passes through the active layer, where bacteria removes dissolved nutrients, while earthworms provide the service of consuming the TSS and regulate the microbial biomass so that clogging of the system is being avoided. Then the effluent of the lambda filter is then passed through the Daphnia filter, which is configured as a tank inoculated with local species of Cladocera, Daphnia magna, which are free to move up and down the water column. In the Daphnia filter, there are some internal weir and baffle mechanisms which ensure that the Daphnids remain within the reactor, while additional surface area is being provided for the establishment of microalgal or bacterial biofilm, which help in the nutrient removal process. Being operated in real environmental conditions, the influent wastewater quality varied widely, with concentration of COD ranging from 450 to 1,500 milligrams per liter BOD from 125 to 681 milligrams per liter, nitrogen ammonium from 19 to 98 milligrams per liter, or the total nitrogen loads from 53 to 207 milligrams per liter. And moreover, the hydraulic flow provided to the Lambri filter itself, to the INNOQUA system, ranged from 0.3 cubic meter per square meter per day to 0.8 cubic meter per square meter per day. Moreover, during the conversion of the building from touristic residence to office building, large amounts of unauthorized discharges of wall paint residues and other construction-specific chemicals were discharged into the system. And these discharges affected the treatment performances of the Lambri filter to a certain extent, while for Daphnia population in the Daphnia filter was quite fatal at some point. The global efficiency of Romanian demonstration described here are taking into account only the Lambri filtration technology. Therefore, the global efficiency on Romania demonstration site presented average removal rates of 64% for TSS removal, 77% BOD removal, 70% for COD removal, and less significant removal rates were observed for nitrogen ammonium, 66% removal rate, 35% removal rate for total phosphorus, and 55% for total nitrogen. However, you can see here that after approximately 1 year of operation, once with the decrease of hydraulic loading rates from 0.7 to 0.3 cubic meter per square meter per day on the system, the treatment performances improved considerably, meeting at most time the discharge limits. The Lambri filter proved reliable as a solution for decentralized wastewater treatment. However, due to some issues with the Daphnia's adaptation, as we have used laboratory-breeded Daphnia species, usually used for ecotoxicity studies, so pure culture of Daphnias, we couldn't assess properly the feasibility of using Daphnia filtration as a polishing step for the specific climate of Romania. However, in other demonstration sites, for example, in Spain, India, and Peru, Daphnia filtration has worked consistently and proved feasible. Thank you for your attention. You may find here, as I said, contact details of all demo site managers, the project website where you may find additional detailed information on each specific technology or demo site, and the links for our social media where you will find project updates and networking opportunities. I would be more than happy to answer any questions.
Costa, maybe one question from my side.
Yes,
Sorry,
please.
David, would you like to go first?
No, you go ahead, Özge. Your
Okay.
privilege.
Thank you. So I was wondering about the legal limits and how the site performed in terms of obeying the legal limits. What type of parameters you need to look at, and what type of discharge conditions that you needed to meet.
So once we adapted the influent characteristics and the hydraulic load of the system to system requirements, the system itself, the Lambri filter, performed well and achieved the discharge limits in terms of minimum percentage of nutrients removal, in terms of TSS, COD, and nitrogen. However, it's not really well defined in Romania what are the limits for decentralized small-scale wastewater treatment systems serving, for example, a flow of equivalent for 10 people equivalent.
I see.
Because the legislation in Romania transposes the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive, meaning that addresses the population agglomerations above 2,000 people equivalent.
I see. I see. But there's this potential to meet the even though if it's not agglomerated, there's still the potential to meet the standards. I can see.
It meets the standard regulated for small wastewater treatment plants, meaning 2,000 to 10,000 people equivalent.
Okay, okay, that's good news. David, please, you can ask your question.
Thank you. It's actually related to that, and it's two questions in one. The first one is the regulations for discharge from septic tanks into water bodies. So I'm assuming that the base case is absolutely compliant with the regulation. And if that is the case, then what is the additional cost of something like the INNOQUA solution compared with a simple septic tank and discharge to water?
So for the first question, I'm not aware of any discharge limit for septic tanks. Usually there is the obligation of installing any treatment system, which is which has a technical agreement. So it meets a certain standard of operation, but there is no certain discharge limit for the effluent of that unit, of that treatment unit. And the second question,
It's around cost. So
yes.
the context is if you simply need to install a septic tank and can discharge to water, that to me seems a very low cost solution.
Yeah, this is
whereas
this
if
is
you go for INNOQUA,
sorry, this is a little tricky question, meaning that, for example, a laundry filter for 10 people equivalent, treating 1.5 cubic meter per day, would cost something like €600 based on European manufacturing. However, this is the cost if you have a pre-settler, meaning that if you reduce the TSS load previously, you may use a smaller footprint laundry filter. However, if you want to go with raw wastewater and give the full stream and test the full capacity of the laundry filter to treat the raw wastewater, TSS included, you will need a larger footprint for the laundry filter itself. So, but even so, the cost would be competitive to the septic tank.
that's reassuring. So you get better treatment than a septic
Exactly.
tank at equivalent cost broadly.
Yes, more or less equivalent.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
I'm just checking the audience if there are any other hands that I can see for questions. I guess at this point, not. So let us, yes, please, Volkan Hocam, please.
Did I mute myself? Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for the wonderful presentations I have heard right now. Thank you, Costel. Actually, I would like to keep this question for the panel session, but I think it will be, asked right at the moment. Have you, compared your results about the discharge conditions, your results with the Turkey, the results you obtained from Turkey? I mean, could you make a comparison with them? Because the geological barriers or the locations are also important, and climatic factor is important. So could you make a comparison with them, or could you reach any kind of suggestion? Depends on this comparison.
Any comparison between the Romanian and the Turkish performances of the INNOQUA system will be forced, as each of the demonstration sites have different loading rates in terms of hydraulic and pollutants load. meaning if the Romanian demonstration site acted with good performances at hydraulic loads of 0.3 cubic meters per square meter per day, given the loads which I indicated, which were, let's say, typical for a high-strength wastewater with the concentration of COD above 1,000 milligrams per liter COD. And
hydro grades are different, so maybe comparing with them should be taken, or should have taken for other parameters might be possible, not for them.
Yes, even though the hydraulic load and pollutants load were pretty much different, totally opposite, the specific removal rates in terms of grams of COD or grams of TSS per square meter per day of reactor were pretty much the same.
First of all, thank you so much for presenting and organizing nice organization. Actually, I feel myself as a kind of a privileged person to make a presentation here. I like the music, by the way. Thank you, Christoph, and thank you, David. And okay, so if you allow me to talk, I would like to say something about opportunities for integration of decentralized nature-based solutions. How can we integrate into urban infrastructure? Before starting my presentation, actually, I'd like to say also that I'm the member of one of the cost action which is dealing with nature-based solutions. And here in this conference, I'm seeing some of my colleagues, Osman and Sabina. We both, took place and participate in the conference we had previously on March in Istanbul. Okay, so what is the outline? There are three important topics I would like to share with under the outline. What do we understand from this terminology? What are the advantages and disadvantages? And what are the opportunities? And at last, finally, the conclusion. I will do my best to fit at 15 minutes, as previously informed me. Number one is, I think, the most important thing that we need to define, because here in the cost section, we're still working on to define out the meaning of MBS. So this is why, I left a special part for this topic. Okay, you could see two definitions, which is already made by, are also the cost section chair, Günther Langegaber, and also I made a citation of my article, which is also published on the cost section. But briefly, MBS are defined as concepts that bring nature into distinct and an understandable form, and MBS address societal challenges and enable resource recovery and other environmental solutions to the problem. But still, let me highlight it there in the during the panel. I also would like to hear your comments. The exact definition of the MBS still cannot be done, because there are so many aspects could be taken places or could be taken under these concepts. Okay, so there are also some aspects related with the MBS. They embrace nature conservation norms. They produce social benefits in a fair and equitable way. They are applied at a landscape scale, and they are integral part of the overall design of policies and measures or actions on a specific challenge. As you may already know, there is a most famous and a well-known figure that relates to MBS or nature-based solutions. You can see the types and you can see the approach, and in the end, you can see the outcomes or the benefits, what shall we say? I mean, the human well-being and biodiversity benefits. So what are the advantages and the disadvantages related to DBNS? The advantage, we can see that, and we can say also the sustainable urbanization, restoration of the degraded ecosystems, adaptation and mitigation of climate change, risk management and resilience. Actually, according to me, the last two parts I'm talking about, the resilience and adaptation and mitigation of the climate change, are the utmost important things in here. But also there are some disadvantages because, NBS are not the, the new or emerging, terminology. It has been discussed in the last 10 years. And of course, the disadvantages are it should, require specific knowledge and experience. There are also some geographical barriers. There is no unique solutions that can be applied in all landscapes. And of course, financial shortage, or we can say money is in the shortest form. Okay, so what are the opportunities for integration of DB&S into urban infrastructure related to this concept? I would like to say something in, under two groups. One is related to water management, and I can also give an example about some other projects which are currently being done or already finished Horizon 2020 projects, okay? Actually, I would like to share the figure which I also used my paper, and also the original source was made by one of our colleagues, Fabio Mazzi from Italy. Okay, if you pay attention on the figure, you could see that the opportunities for integration of DB&S into urban structures are dealing with, the vertical gardens, or reusing the waters again from the buildings directly to the agricultural fields and used as an irrigation of water. And also the project, the Italian, German, and the Danish projects are currently using these, tools as a kind of a reach about the direct aims of the MBS. But what is important here, if you pay attention on the bottom of the figure, you could see a kind of an agricultural irrigation is also one of the important things that we can say something related to water management. And DB&S can contribute to urban landscape. There are, 5 important things I would like to say: that the natural and constructed wetlands, repairing buffer strips, urban green spaces and green buildings, and reforestation activities. But there is one more thing I would like to share. As previously, our colleagues mentioned about the 2 demonstrated sites, one in Turkey and one in Romania. Actually, and basically, they are currently related with a kind of a slow rate treatment system. So we can say that these types of MBAs, the kind of improvement method, or it's based on slow rate treatment. But of course, there are some modifications and implications are going on. But basically, we should say that it was the first we deal about the slow rate treatment systems. Time by time, it's developed, and now we're speaking something about the nature-based solution. And related to urban infrastructure, I would like to share a figure which is by a Chinese researcher. Actually, I made a circle with the red font, and on the red font you can see green roofs and green walls. They are, according to me, they are the most important, the examples of related to urban infrastructure. And green roof is a kind of an also known as the eco roof or the planted roof. And you can see on the figure, there are some layers. Actually, it's very convenient and feasible use, and you can see, and nowadays, in many, the locations and the various locations in all over Europe, in some, locations in the world. Actually, the vegetation layer is so important because a couple of months ago, I read the news from China, and they used the green roof, but the wrong types of the vegetation made some, troubles about, the root cohesions and the root problems, or some kind of dewatering problems in the building structure. And also the benefits, there are 3 types of benefits: ecological benefits, economical benefits, and other public benefits. And as for the ecological benefits, of course, that's related to water management, stormwater management, that we can say first, improve the air quality. And for the economical benefits, fire retardation, urban agriculture, which are so popular right now today, and other public benefits, the static improvement, improved health, well-being, educational opportunities. Green walls, it's coming from the history. I mean, it's not a new thing, but using only a vegetative site or the vegetation site, and according to the architectural point of also the aesthetical values are so high, but also during the hot summer, it provides us, providing some kind of, shade opportunities. And because of the evaporation take place on the surfaces, it is a kind of a, some kind of a good thing to be used on the walls of some buildings, okay? And the main idea is vegetation absorbs large amounts of solar radiation and while the effect of evapotranspiration is, reduced. Okay, so in the conclusion, I would like to be as kind of simple as I can. These are the important tools for adaptation and mitigation of the climate change. Of course, you can insert some things under this one. And the most important for me, they help to build resilient societies and allow to establish environmental policy and planning. These are the words I would like to share with you, and this is the references, and this is the internet sources I use. If you want to address me any more questions, I'm here. Thank you. So,
Volkan Hocam, thank you. First, I would like to ask one question, maybe two, because this is very interesting topic, and you presented very well about especially the multiple benefits of MBS, because this is something that we should also be aware of. Not only we are gaining environmental benefits when we apply nature-based solutions, whether within the cities or in rural areas, there are always multiple benefits, societal benefits and economic benefits as well. So you mentioned the importance of selecting the also, it can also cause some structural problems as well, because, for example, in another Horizon project, we are working on the cultural heritage and implementation of MBS to up to a certain extent. So it's important to choose what type of system we are implementing, whether if it's green roofs or green facade, based on some conditions, local conditions, I guess. Can you give some examples how we can determine these type of conditions? Thank you.
Okay, these types of conditions, as I told you before, depends on the geographical conditions. For instance, if you run a project in Greece, for instance, I would like to give a project named Hydro USA, is going on in Greece. You need to pay attention to local conditions. So the local conditions on the microclimatic effects, you need to pay attention. Of course, that the one that you will pay attention on in Denmark, on the northern, the peninsula or the northern area, or the one that you will attention in Greece or the Mediterranean area are the totally different things. There is also one thing which I noticed during running other projects. Some kind of, the cultural experiences are important, because, people are used to do this, is coming from this story. They are nothing so new for them. As I told you before, what you do as a kind of a demonstration area, 20 years ago, we already mentioned some kind of a slow rate treatment system, the kind of an improvement way. So cultural points and the cultural notifications are important. Do you have any more questions? You told that there are two more questions, or one you already addressed me?
Let me just give the floor to the participants. If any other questions we have, then if not, I will ask my second question.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. Yep.
Yes, please, David.
It's a question on definitions. So, for example, would a septic tank be a nature-based solution because you're relying, yes, on physical settlement, but also on biological activity in that system?
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. If you address about the definition related to septic tank, what shall we say about the nature-based solution? Nature-based solutions are kind of the thing that, reducing the amounts of the pollution maybe could be taking places. But this definition can be also only reliable for if you put on the septic tank as a focal point. But if you use any kind of other thing, that of course you need to change the MBS, the definitions of the MBS. So it can be, adaptable, or it can be changeable. What I say to you depends on the point you address. This is what I think. But believe me that this is the most difficult thing that we are dealing with our current project right at the moment. We still couldn't find one unique or the one common. The definition is accepted by everyone, even for writing state-of-the-art papers. This is the problem we are currently having.
Sure, thank you. I apologize. It's a bit of a cheeky question. We have the same issue with definition of decentralized. Decentralized, on-site, non-sewered. What do we mean? What do we mean? And really, is it important at the end of the day?
Well, if you look at the literature survey, you could see that you can categorize some papers on the decentralized, but some papers are not mentioning about it one. But if you look at the European Union, the reports, and most reports you could see the decentralized nature-based. So maybe you could ask your question by yourself. Okay, so in what terminology should I deal with? Decentralized or because when you proposed me to make a presentation, this one, I mean, I saw the the title, and I asked myself the same question. Which type of MBS should I focus on, or which type of MBS should I, put and try to be as simple as I can to share the audience?
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, okay, you're supposed to have the another question, I think.
Yeah, it's actually I really was interested in the topic and the presentation itself, because we are talking about MBS and the water management, but of course whether it's rural setting or urban settings, when we think about water management, MBS offers a lot of different opportunities. So you mentioned you selected very nicely the green roofs, green facade type of MBS, which can be implemented in the cities, maybe a little bit more easier than some other MBS. But of course, there's this water management part of it, because when we look at it from a life cycle point of view, when we implement a green facade or roof, there might be some irrigation requirements. So that means we are in fact increasing the water consumption of, let's say, the building itself. What my second question was, how do you see the potential to combine this type of MBS with some kind of rain harvesting applications?
Well, it could be possible. It could be possible. Or what shall we say, that rain harvesting methods should be the right term that, maybe, it means the answer of your question. I see the high potential. But on the other hand, maybe, I mean, it would, if you want to, adapt it on a kind of a top of the, the building, I think there are some also other properties belong to the construction or the buildings are important. But in theory, yeah, and in the theoretical aspects, yeah, I mean, I see a huge potential to be implemented in cities. For instance, if I'm not mistaken, I live in Istanbul. Actually, in some part of the the European side, some companies started to do as a kind of a the implementation things related with the harvesting rain and use a kind of MBS purposes. But if you ask about for Turkey, it's a very the novel approach. But in theory, yes, there's a high potential to implement this.
Yeah, I guess it still depends on the local conditions, right? Maybe the selection of the vegetation, maybe you're not implementing grass or something that may need a lot of water.
Maybe,
instead you go for succulents.
Maybe, I mean, selecting the vegetation, if you say about the selecting the vegetation, the root component is important, because as you know, I mean, some kind of the plant which we plant annually, or the weed or kind of the the vegetation, their root systems comes in a conical shape. So the root system is important. And on the other hand, maybe it's a kind of a technical approach, but I can say this depending on my agricultural engineering background, the stomatal capacities which are taking places under the leaf, they're also important. So about transpiration, the roots, the performance, all the stomatal activities, everything can be taking place as a combined study. So yes, in theory you can apply this, but the plant structure and the root structure is also mainly the vegetation structure is important.
So obviously there are many parameters. So this is coming into a very interesting discussion. Maybe we can continue this in the panel session. I don't want to make Daria wait much longer, but thank you for your presentation and for
my
your
pleasure.
answers.
If I took so long time of the audience, I'm so sorry for this, but I have the joy to be.
No, not at all. It was very interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So,
thank you.
Next, we will have a joint presentation with Daria Stanic and Sabina Bokal, which will be delivered by Daria. Daria, she holds a Bachelor of Science degree in biology and a PhD in environmental protection. She has a wide experience in development and implementation of constructed wetlands and other MBS. Currently, she is employed at University of Ljubljana, where her main research fields are nature-based solutions for wastewater treatment and reuse of treated water in agriculture especially. Lately, her research includes wastewater treatment in high-rate algal ponds and MBS for food production in cities. Today, she will talk about experience and challenges with sustainable wastewater treatment in the Danube region. Daria, please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a nice introduction. So as already mentioned, the presentation was prepared together with my colleague Sabina Bokal. Sabina is from Global Water Partnership in Central and Eastern Europe, and she's already also here present at this meeting. So if you will have any questions about the GWP network, you can also refer to her. So do you see my screen?
We can.
Yeah, okay. What about now? It's in presentation mode, but it's on another screen. Maybe not.
We don't see it full screen right now.
Yeah, because I have two monitors, but now you should see it.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay. So first, I would like to say a few words about the Global Water Partnership Network. It's a global network with a vision for a water-secure world. It's an inclusive multi-stakeholder partnership that exists for more than 20 years and has the goal of pioneering and practicing integrated approach to water resource management. So it joins the partners from different regions and their knowledge in order to influence policies, practices, and investments for a water secure world. The network is organized into regional networks, as you can see in this map. So the regional networks are mainly present in developing countries. In South and Central America, we have 3 regional networks. In Africa, we have 4. European countries actually belong to 2 networks. One is around the Mediterranean Sea, and the second one is Central and Eastern European network. And then in Asia, there are 4 additional networks there. So in Central and Eastern Europe, the regional network of GWP joins 12 countries from Baltic region and from the Danube region. It currently has 160 partners. They come from they are NGOs, water utilities, governance bodies, companies, academia, and similar. And they have the common mission. This is to advance governance and management of water resources for sustainable and equitable development. So some countries of the Central and Eastern Europe also belong to the Danube region, and I will focus more on these countries today. So if we want to see the situation of wastewater treatment in the Danube region, is best to refer to the State of the Sector report. It's available online on the Danube's website. It's from 2015, and it represents really nicely the situation of wastewater treatment in the region. Some of these data are actually quite similar, like it was presented by Costel in the morning. But here actually the focus is on the Danube countries. So from the report, it can be seen that 55% of the total population in the Danube region is not connected to wastewater treatment plants. Of course, there are major differences between the countries. 97% of connected population in Austria, and on the other hand, we have Kosovo with only 2% of population that is connected to wastewater treatment plants. Of course, the report that I just mentioned and the data, they refer to the agglomerations that have more than 2,000 inhabitants, because this is what the Urban Wastewater Directive from European Union demands from the countries. Of course, these agglomerations have significant water load to the environment, and specifically the agglomerations that have more than 100,000 inhabitants, they actually present 45% of total wastewater load in the Danube region. And still in this area, so with the settlements with more than 2,000 inhabitants, there is a lot of work to be done, because 18% of these settlements still has no collection of wastewater, and additional 10% has wastewater collection, but no treatment. And then if we look into the settlements that have less than 2,000 population equivalents, the situation is even worse. So these settlements actually present 40% of the population in the Danube River Basin, which is actually a lot. And in Global Water Partnership in Central and Eastern Europe, we actually found similar data for the Central Eastern European region. In 2011, we did a small study that actually was focused on nature-based solutions for wastewater treatment in these small settlements. But what we found out with the study was that, of course, a lot of population lives in these small settlements. For CEE, this is 30%. So a bit lower than for the Danube region. And what we found out was that only 9% of the population at that time was connected to wastewater treatment plants. In this table, you can see a cross-section of the countries that belong both to Central and Eastern European region and to the Danube region, the number of treatment plants and the number of small treatment plants. So because the situation is actually quite bad, the GWP in the region decided to establish a sustainable sanitation task force. This is a special network inside the GWP network that joins the experts working with sustainable sanitation. And the group was quite active since 2007, actually. And since that time, we have published a few books and literature that were mainly focused on nature-based solutions in rural areas. Among them was also a guidebook on NBS for wastewater treatment that is available online and is also used as a textbook at technical studies in the region in some countries. Then later on in 2016, we were involved in a Danube project. This was a smaller project that was focused more to the Danube region. And here the GWP CEE got a chance to also increase the network and to get more stakeholders also from the Danube region. In 2017, we were involved in elaboration of a feasibility study for innovative wastewater treatment in the Danube region. This project gave some interesting results and I will present them later on. Since 2018, we are also involved in the cost action, which was also mentioned by Volkan's presentation just now. And in the last 2 years, our main work was actually applying different international cross-border horizon projects where we could apply these sustainable sanitation topics. So I mentioned that GWP as well as University of Ljubljana or our members were involved in the performance of feasibility study on innovative wastewater treatment system in the Danube region. The project was financed by GRC, Joint Research Center of the European Union, and was actually divided into 2 lots. The first one was focused on decentralized treatment plants, and the feasibility study was done on a case study in Slovenia. And the second lot was focused on a centralized treatment plant in Serbia with resource recovery options. Both feasibility studies are presented in a common final report of the project that you can find online at the GRC website. So GWP was a partner in feasibility study 1, which was done together with Water Science Institute, a small SME from Slovenia that is dealing with environmental modeling and databases, and Iridra, an Italian company specialized in design and implementation of nature-based solutions. So in the feasibility study, we compared different scenarios for collection and treatment of wastewater in small settlements. We selected 3 representative settlements in Slovenia, which would be somehow representative for the whole Danube region. You can see them in these pictures and you probably see not much difference. So they look very similar, but in practice, they are quite different. For example, this settlement in the middle is positioned in steep slopes. The soil here is clayish. There are potentials for landslides. You cannot infiltrate the treated water. Additionally, the settlement gravitates to different sites, so you cannot collect all the wastewater to one point only by gravity. You need pumping. And the village also has some tourist activities. They have a hotel and a big restaurant, so the hydraulic and pollutant fluctuations are very high. Then the second village was in karstic area. There's limestone in the ground with lots of sinkholes, and additionally it lies in the water protection zone. The settlement is very scattered, so the houses rarely stick together, but are very spread all over the area. And the third example was a more dense village, which actually consists of more small agglomerations, which can be then treated all together at one point or separately. So in the feasibility study, we evaluated both scales that were already mentioned today, so centralized option and decentralized option. In the centralized, we proposed like treatment of wastewater from the whole settlement at one treatment plant, and in decentralized options, you can have treatment of wastewater at individual houses or in few houses together. So the technologies that were included in feasibility study can be grouped into 3 major groups. The high-tech group included a sequencing batch reactor and membrane bioreactor. These are actually 2 technologies that are quite commonly implemented in this region. In the nature-based solutions, we had different options of treatment wetlands, from more sophisticated forced bed aeration wetlands and to more classical or robust ones like horizontal flow treatment wetland. In resource-oriented group, we included in the study the algae bioreactor, with which one can produce algae biomass that can be used as a fertilizer in agriculture, then a zero-discharge willow system to produce willow wood chip as an energy source for household heating. And we also included treatment wetlands with water reuse as resource recovery. So we set a bunch of criteria in the feasibility study. The criteria included capital and operation costs, expenditure, then technical parameters that included energy requirements, reliability of the technology, its robustness, and also the skills that are required from the maintenance staff. The social acceptability included well-being, which is actually from providing jobs to the satisfaction of the local community with the system. And the criteria were also different ecosystem services, including wastewater reuse. So after setting all these criteria, a multi-criteria evaluation of different options was carried out, and then we selected the best solution. I wouldn't go into the process of this selection, but I would like to point out the result. So the results showed that a decentralized approach can enable numerous advantages, economic, social, environmental, but only if robust technologies are applied. So technologies that are reliable, that can withstand hydraulic and pollutant load, and that do not demand a lot of maintenance. So in this region, this would mean that we would suggest French treatment wetland in case of treating wastewater from the whole agglomeration, because with French treatment wetlands, as you may know, you can treat raw wastewater and you don't need pre-treatment. Then for individual houses, a horizontal flow would be, treatment wetland would be most feasible option. And in cases where there is not enough space available, then SBR would be most feasible. So we know which approach to take and we know which technologies to promote. And now the next are the challenges that we face for further implementation of these solutions. I would list just some most important challenges, or the ones that we recognize as the most abundant, as the most present. So one is, of course, the legislation gap. As was already mentioned today, the Urban Wastewater Directive does not refer to the settlements below 2000 PE, and the countries are then have to solve the problem by themselves. But on the other hand, luckily, there is Water Framework Directive, and they have to meet a good water status of their surface and groundwater. So this is somehow an indirect obligation to also treat the wastewaters. One thing that GWP finds as a challenge and is very important is still lack of awareness and knowledge. It's hard to admit that this is still a challenge in 2020, but there is actually really lack of skilled technology providers. There is slow transition of knowledge or transfer of knowledge from academia to practitioners. Luckily, in the last years, nature-based solutions gained some importance and are more known, but it's still, there are many difficulties with their application. And on top of this, there are some solutions that were implemented maybe with some lack of knowledge and they are not functioning properly. And this gives a bad light on the whole set of solutions. The community engagement is low. Actually, it's much bigger than in case of centralized approach, but still it should be much more emphasized. Different types of stakeholders should be involved in the decision-making processes, and this is also one of the goals of GWP network. And last but not least, one of the challenges is also that wastewater is not recognized as a resource, but in our opinion, it should be, especially in decentralized settings, because the opportunities for wastewater reuse in decentralized systems are actually big. These small villages, small settlements, they are in proximity of agricultural land, so the reuse of water for irrigation can be easily implemented. And if you have decentralized systems, you also have a better source control and less micropollutants in the wastewater. So the Sustainable Sanitation Task Force of Global Water Partnership Network has somehow defined mindset. We know that in the future we will need a lot of small treatment plants to treat wastewater from small settlements. It will be needed in the Central and Eastern Europe as well as in the Danube region and elsewhere in the world. We know that decentralized approach is the one that can bring more benefits and that robust technologies have to be applied. We also know that these technologies have to be integrated with resource recovery because this is actually the only way how to reach sustainable sanitation. So for the end, I would somehow point out the basic findings and our way to go. So Global Water Partnership in Central and Eastern Europe wants to promote nature-based solutions as robust technologies that can offer integrated water management. And there is still a need to raise awareness with different stakeholders, also at policy level, and to attract governmental institutions in such projects. So from our work, it's actually, we can say that it's difficult to attract governmental institutions into projects because they somehow don't see so big interest in this sustainable sanitation in rural areas. And as I already mentioned before, there is a need to bridge the gap between the scientific community and practitioners, because a lot of knowledge already exists, which but we can also see from today's presentations that the knowledge is there. We just need to transfer it faster and better to the practitioners and to the policy level. Additionally, there are many good practices also in the Danube region and CEE, and they offer a very good opportunity to do this, so to transfer the knowledge and to disseminate the ideas. And last but not least, GWP-CEE is a multi-stakeholder platform and has actually all the capacities to further spread the information and to join the partners in common goals. So if anyone is interested, you are also very welcome to join freely to the network of GWP. Thank you very much for your attention. If any questions, welcome.
Thank you, Daria. Let's start with David.
Yeah, Daria,
We should also take Sabina. Sabina, hello. So you both prepared the presentation, so you're all also here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, great presentation. Thank you. I just a question on standards and developments with the Water Framework Directive in Europe. I'm not so familiar with the ongoing developments, but do you think there's any prospect of universal treatment standards for small works or for individual discharges in the future? Because from your presentation, one message I'm getting is a huge variety of approaches to implementing treatment at the small scale. So I wonder if you could kind of perhaps provide your thoughts on whether we might see some guidance from Europe, or whether there are other initiatives that can implement similar treatment standards across the countries.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, there was a lot of discussion about this in different networks. So how to set common guidelines for these small settlements, and actually no real conclusions because the situation is so diverse. So also nowadays, the countries have very different approaches to these small settlements. Some countries, for example, the Balkan countries, have very strict demands for wastewater discharge also for single households. I mean, the standards can be almost like drinking water, because they are actually copying the same treatment levels as are needed for big systems. So this is one extreme, while the other extreme is having no regulation at all. But in my opinion, this has to be adjusted to every country or region, because there are also different sensitivities of the environment. For example, in countries where natural watercourses have high self-purification capacity, you don't need to remove so much pollutants as in the countries where they have more sensitive areas and like lowlands and more sensitive watercourses, and it's important to remove, for example, all the nutrients. And on the other hand, the treatment performance should also be linked to the wastewater reuse. So if we are going to reuse the wastewater in agriculture, then we don't need to remove the nutrients during summer, but during winter, It's of course the plants do not need the nutrients and you have to do something with them. So I can see the solution in somehow flexible technologies that can adjust also their treatment performance during the year and to really reuse the water wherever possible for agriculture or for other purposes. But to find, like, to set some common legislation limits for the whole Europe, maybe it's not really the best solution. Maybe some raw guidelines, but to set some specific numbers, it's not necessary that we will solve the problem with this.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Christoph, please.
Yeah, thanks for this really interesting presentation. I have one question which you, let's say, partly mentioned already, this topic. When you are dealing with the municipalities or the local authorities, what is your experience? Are they open for decentralized solutions, or are they rather having reservations?
I think the situation is getting better because also now with our projects and networking, we can somehow attract the governmental bodies and municipalities to participate in the events. Also, when we were doing this feasibility study, we invited municipalities, Ministry for Environment and other governmental institutions. So with more effort to inviting them, we can really get them on board, but it's not so easy with like with some other partners that are really more cooperative. So this is getting better, and they are also more keen to decentralized systems as, for example, 10 or 20 years ago. Because now there are more examples of good solutions existing and they like to go there and see the real example working in function. So somehow this type of awareness rising and knowledge spreading is, I think, quite important. So to show the examples of best practice.
Daria, Sabina, thank you very much for your presentation. So I think I also have some questions, but we can leave it to the panel session if it's all right, so that we can move on with our program. So it's time to move on to the presentation from Olga Tiron, who is another researcher from ECOIND, Romania. One of her research topic is the wastewater treatment with microalgal systems. Today, she will share her expertise on algae for decentralized wastewater treatment. Olga, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your introduction. I am Olga Tiron, yes, from ECOIND Institute, working with Costel in the Department of Environmental Technologies and Technological Transfer. The next presentation emphasizes the impact of the microalgae integration in wastewater treatment technology, represented as an alternative solution for sanitation rising problems and overall for wastewater treatment sector. Topics covered will be why microalgae populations, technology principle, achieved performance and recognized constraints identified during biotechnology testing, covering both reported results and the experience gained from several demonstration sites tested within the INNOQUA project. Cannot. Microalgae represent one of the primary producers of the aquatic ecosystems, which means that nature provides us with the specific microorganisms whose cellular composition and metabolism led to the development of a worldwide multiple branching industry, referring to microalgae biotechnology, being applied in socioeconomic sectors such as biofuels production or pharmaceutical industries, and addressing as a solution to current environmental issues, as for example, greenhouse gases emissions by carbon sequestrations, ecosystems pollutions by bioremediation potential, or even to sanitation issues. All these features made microalgae as one of the targets of the circular bioeconomy. The beginning of a microalgae biotechnology path was represented by biomass cultivation, direction initiated mainly as a result of a food resources depletion caused by World War II period. Once agriculture recorded an upward trend after World War, the interest for microalgae cultivation for protein production decreased. However, the interest switched to use microalgae for domestic wastewater effluent polishing, the idea being to harness microalgae metabolic features to avoid eutrophication phenomena caused by the discharge of the nutrient-rich effluents, overloaded with nitrogen and phosphorus. There are two main criteria that sustains this idea. First of all, we're speaking about the symbiosis relationship occurring in natural ecosystems between microalgae and bacteria. The core principle of the symbiotic relation harnessed into the wastewater treatment process is represented by a nutrient support exchange established between microalgae and bacteria. Microalgae population provide oxygen supply by photosynthesis, which is consumed by aerobic bacteria for organic matter degradation and nitrification processes as well. Release macronutrients after degradation, mainly nitrogen, phosphorus, and inorganic carbon, being captured by microalgae for cell growth, implicitly for photosynthesis. Besides the core principle of the macronutrients exchange, the interaction between microalgae and bacteria populations is more complex and could comprise unidirectional relationship or parasitism relationship as well, as also trophic interactions could be interspecies, intraspecies, cross-kingdom, or intra-kingdom. Besides macronutrients, growth stimulatory compounds could be also represented by other metabolites, bacteria species being providers of the essential for microalgae cell growth compounds, such as vitamins and hormones. The second criteria that sustains the use of a microalgae bacteria biomass for effluent polishing is represented by the microalgae cell ability to consume nitrogen and phosphorus at even very low loadings, when other applied technologies are proven to be inefficient. Moreover, as in the case of accumulating bacteria used in enhanced biological phosphorus removal step, while macroalgae are able to accumulate higher phosphorus content than that required for cell development. But now let's take a closer look on what impact could have occurring microalgae bacteria interactions on both wastewater treatment operation and microalgae cultivation systems. First of all, microalgae can be used not only in tertiary treatment step, but as also for secondary treatment, resulting in integrated technological flow for increasing the socioeconomic and environmental impact as microalgae cultivation and wastewater treatment technology based on activated sludge facing various constraints and the drawbacks. Regarding production of a microalgae biomass, wastewater provides for microalgae population necessary nutrients and water resources, only required inorganic carbon supply representing up to 27% of the total cultivation costs. Moreover, phosphorus represents a limited resource with a high depletion risk in the next decades, and the nitrogen is considered an important limiting factor in assessment of the microalgae biorefineries, sustainability and potential scaling. Regarding the advantages that could be achieved by using microalgae bacteria biomass for wastewater treatment could be pointed the following. Decreasing elimination of the CO2 gas emissions, which is the main contributor to the greenhouse gases emissions. Moreover, conventional wastewater treatment technologies represent the top conventional wastewater treatment technologies represented the top contributors of the greenhouse gases emissions and the water industry, and one of the three top contributors of the greenhouse gases emissions worldwide. CO2 could also be used from flue gases, such as those resulted from natural gas power plants. Microalgae provide also free oxygen supply. Mass aeration is the most energy-intensive process during wastewater treatment, accounting for about 40–60% of overall operation costs. Experimental results obtained by ECOIND's team in ongoing microalgae-related projects showed that microalgae biomass could not only sustain the necessary oxygen level required by aerobic bacteria for both organic matter degradation and nitrification, but as also could frequently exceed 100% of oxygen saturation during the light phase, being maintained only above 30 to 50% during the night period, depending on operation treatment mode. Moreover, replacement of the mechanical aeration with a biological-based oxygen-generated process decreases the risk of pollutants volatilization. However, besides several social and economic impediments date from the microalgae biotechnology origin, performed tests outline various limits which influence outdoor scaling of some biotechnology branches, one of them being applications for wastewater treatment. Which are the biotechnology limits? First of all, harvesting. Cost and energy input linked to microalgae harvesting remained a significant issue even from the first years of experimental investigations of the microalgae biotechnology, and represents the major concern of the biotechnology scaling. More than 50% of the research papers addressed to the algae-based wastewater treatment technology or microalgae cultivation, bringing into question the harvesting step. A lot of efforts were and are made in this direction to overcome harvesting-related problems, such as those linked to energy, cost, time, and biomass contamination. Moreover, reactors design and microalgae species selectivity are hardly influenced by harvesting efficiency. The harvesting problems comes from microalgae cells particularities. The most commonly used species have a cell diameter lower than 30 micrometers and a cellular density similar to that of water. The most frequently applied harvesting methods, such as centrifugation and chemical flocculation, do not ensure efficient harvesting, and even 2 or more harvesting techniques applied, the microalgae removal efficiency rarely exceeds 95%, being affected the effluent quality and compromising the system functionality. Dewatering is another downstream step recognized for its high cost requirements. Proper biomass humidity level must be ensured before biomass extraction phase. Biotechnology scaling represents heavily discussed topic facing not only economical challenges, but as also several technical ones. At the beginning of the biotechnology development for wastewater treatment, the process occurred mainly in open pond systems, characterized by rather deep depth, low microalgae concentration, which increases cost for microalgae harvesting and dewatering. The system also presents irregular photosynthetic activity conducted to the appearance of an oxygen gradient and to a low BOD efficiency removal requiring a high hydraulic rotation time. Starting with 1960, thin layer reactors were proposed in order to overcome open ponds limits. Thin layer reactors are represented by a slight slope in order to avoid biomass settling and much lower water depth, properties which sustain the increase of the photosynthesis efficiency and biomass productivity, as also the decrease of the hydraulic retention time. Close to that period, high-rate algal ponds were tested for secondary and tertiary wastewater treatment, mainly domestic and agricultural water resources. This type of ponds are characterized by a small depth, being provided with mixing system which allows an increase of the photosynthesis activity and organic matter removal efficiency. Lower hydraulic retention time. However, they are represented by low biomass density and the biomass productivity and require wide lens surface, even 50 times higher than that needed for activated sludge process. Compared to open ponds, photobioreactors allow better and ease operational control and a higher biomass productivity. However, they requires high operational costs, especially for mixing, but could be by even 15 times higher than that required for open ponds systems. With about 3 decades far from the first signs of the microalgae biotechnology development for wastewater treatment, the algae-based biofilm reactors hold the last step in line with the microalgae biotechnology development history. Advancement of this type of system was not so visible as in the case of the suspended microalgae applications, as algae-based biofilm presented mainly interest in wastewater treatment processes rather than for commercial biomass culturing. Algae-based biofilm represents a dense, multi-layer biological structure consisted of a mixed population of microalgae and bacteria and developed by physical, chemical, and biological attachment mechanisms on the surface of a specific material. What are the strengths which promote the use of a biofilm system instead of the suspended cultures for wastewater treatment? First of all, speaking about harvesting, the attached biomass can be easily harvested by scrape with no energy input requirements. As also biofilms have higher biomass density, even up to 100 times higher compared to the performance of the open pond systems, allowing decrease in the operating land surface. The biomass organization allows the decrease of the biomass water content, the scraped biofilm having humidity level similar by that resulted after centrifugation after centrifugation, or even this means that allows the exclusion of the harvesting step, thus saving energy. Biofilms have higher biomass productivity. Commonly reported performance for algae biofilms ranging between 0.5 and 3 grams per square meter per day, but could reach even around 20 grams per square meter per day. Biofilm properties sustain higher wastewater treatment efficiency compared to suspended cultures, high robustness for a wide range of wastewater types being found, and can sustain both nitrification and denitrification processes by uneven oxygen distribution. In terms of wastewater treatment performance, the organic matter and nutrients removal efficiencies vary in a wide range, depending on multiple factors, such as the reactor design, scaling, involved microalgae and bacteria species, influent loadings, harvesting frequency. The impact of harvesting frequency must be especially pointed as it influences the photosynthetic activity, influences ash content, biofilm stability, effluent content, and also predators community is a very important factor. Studies on microalgae bacteria biofilms were conducted mainly at laboratory scale on a wide range of wastewater sources, but a lack of experience of biofilm large-scale application was noticed. Perform outdoor studies accounting less than 10% of found related publications. Further, several important achievements will be outlined here, gained on microalgae bacteria biofilm testing for effluent polishing at laboratory scale and demonstration sites within INNOQUA project. Before pilot scale design and microalgae bacteria biofilm testing in outdoor conditions, lab scale experiments were conducted in order to establish the influence of the several technical and other operational factors on treatment performance. The system performance was monitored during the startup period on 3 types of reactors: double layer cascade reactor, thin layer cascade reactor, and single platform reactor. Under given operational conditions, the results emphasized quite close treatment performances between reactors, which allowed some flexibility in choosing the design reactor for pilot scale testing. A long-term assessment of the reactor's performance after a startup period underline an increase of organic matter, total phosphorus, and total nitrogen removal efficiencies in line with the increase of the solids retention time. However, prolonged exponential growth phase of a biofilm affected the pollutant removal efficiency, outlining in this way the importance of the harvesting frequency factor on systems performance. Obtained results were used for outdoor technology. Obtained results in this case at laboratory scale were used for outdoor technology implementation. As that from India, used for effluent polishing, originated from a domestic wastewater source, the results being outlined in the attached table, or as here it is presented a demonstration site tested in Girona, which used also bare solar purification treatment step. And but from Peru, more detailed information about system performance related to advancement treatment step using microalgae-based biofilms in different geographical location could be provided at request. Thank you for your attention. And if there are any questions.
Thank you, Olga. Looking at the audience now, if I can see some hands. Yes, please, David.
Hi, a quick question, Olga. Are there any commercial systems using this kind of algae bacterial biofilm at the moment, or is that approach relatively new in the market?
Is relatively new. There are several pilot scale successfully tested, but only several, mainly at the equatorial regions, maybe lower than 10 pilot scales, because usually it was used closed photobioreactors in order to control all operational factors and was easy to test. Environmental conditions influences very much the treatment performance, and it is hard to implement at pilot scale. For this reason, the technology is in developing now.
Thank you.
I think we have another question. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. And I would like to first pose a question about the ratio between the bacteria and algae community. So how could you control that you don't have too much bacteria or too less algae, or vice versa, so that the symbiosis relationship would be the most efficient one?
In this case, it depends on what type of wastewater we use. If you use wastewater with lower loadings, lower than 500 milligrams COD per liter, we can made there are multiple factors that influence these systems. Beginning from influent loading, as also solar irradiance is very important, light irradiance. For this reason, every test must be performed is linked with one type of wastewater. For example, if you test dairy wastewater under optimum light conditions, you can see that maybe the bacteria could overload, the balance between bacteria and microalgae could be, I don't know, higher than, and it will be determine the shading effect will be on microalgae. It depends on what type of wastewater is testing and what operational conditions are. Maybe for this reason, pilot scale testing is so few tests performed outside.
So what kind of ratio would you suggest for the communal wastewater, like a sewage?
There is no information about ratio, because the interaction with the describing of a microalgae bacteria composition is quite new. In order to research the interactions, how much bacteria, how much microalgae, is quite new methods applied in this field. And there is no information on what ratio must be. Also, it depends on other factors such as influent characteristics and other operational conditions.
So the answer, I mean, as I understand you, the best option would be to test with the pilot scale and then see what the ratio would be the optimal for specific case. Is that so?
Yes,
yeah.
It's specific for geographical location, for conditions, for what type of wastewater you test, what type of microalgae you test.
Because, of course, the species and and another question, if I can be quick, what is the best harvest application that you can suggest out of your experiences for the maybe the algae pond, which is maybe closed? Which would be the best harvest option? Because this could really be a challenge.
Yes. The most applied harvesting is centrifugation, but it consumes a lot of energy. We, besides biofilm, we developed in the institute an alternative biomass structures, granular structures, which could be used as suspended biomass, which allow the settlement of the microalgae within minutes, but it requires also is undergoing research in this case, and it is an option to cultivate the microalgae even in open ponds systems. But regarding the frequently used applied methods, each method has its disadvantages, such high energy or biomass contaminations with metals due to the flocculation.
Thank you very much.
It depends. It depends on what type of microalgae have the open pot systems. Usually, the filamentous microalgae facilitate better, easier sedimentation of the biomass. The presence of the filamentous microalgae, it is option for decreasing the energy costs during centrifugation.
So I'm delighted to introduce you Dr. Asuman Korkusuz, who is a longtime friend. Yeah, both curly we're here. So Asuman is a very busy woman. She is the research and development project coordinator of Optima Engineering, also the deputy general manager of Optimet Environmental Technologies in Turkey. She's also a part-time instructor at Middle East Technical University. Her areas of interest involve constructed wetlands for wastewater treatment, ecological solutions, and waste management. So Asuman will deliver her speech on constructed wetlands for domestic wastewater treatment in Turkey. Asuman, we are ready to listen to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the nice introduction. I am trying to share my presentation screen. Okay. Okay, can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great, because I cannot see myself because I'm connecting to through my mobile phone. Greetings to everybody from Antalya. I'm sorry, I'm in Antalya in a very nice situation and in a very lovely atmosphere, but tomorrow I will be also traveling to Ankara. So thank you so much for the invitation for the nice webinar. It's really very nice for me to talk about my experience on constructed wetlands for domestic wastewater in Turkey. Yes, it started when I was in primary school. You know, my first scientific experiment was on filtration, and I was amazed to just prepare some dirty water and pure it to level of different layers of the substrates. You know, so some sand, some gravel, and so on. And this was giving me the inspiration to continue with environmental engineering, in the future. So when I was studying in environmental engineering at Middle East Technical University in Ankara, usually the context, so the curriculum was based on conventional treatment systems. But afterwards, when I was graduated from this department, I continued again, so with the same department, but I was able to take some other courses, for example, from the Department of City and Regional Planning. And then there was a course on eco-villages. And within this course, Professor Dr. Semih Eryıldız, he was mentioning about the eco-villages. And I was amazed again, so one more. Because he was talking about the gray water treatment system and composting toilets, wetlands and algae treatment. And it was at that time called like living machines, okay? So we were dreaming really to have some applications also within our university campus. Therefore, I continued to work on this topic. And he gave us this idea to centralize or to decentralize. That was the question. And my idea was also going to have such kind of courses maybe, but at the time we didn't have such kind of courses also within our university. It was 1997. But then I was convincing one of my professors to have some studies on constructed wetlands. Why not to have a master thesis, for example, for constructed wetlands? And most of you were talking about the centralized treatment system, so I will not go into the detail. The constructed wetlands for the small communities can be also a solution, because they are efficient, cost-effective, simple, practical, reliable, and they're environmental friendly. And these are also called as natural and alternative treatment systems. And at my time, okay, so we were calling them as also eco-technologies. And as being one of the decentralized treatment systems, and due to their efficient organic matter removal, high nutrient capturing capacity, low construction, operational maintenance cost, low energy demand, and high potential for creating biodiversity, constructed wetlands can play also an important and vital role in water resources management, especially for developing countries. And we can use the constructed wetlands applications like this. For sewage treatment, for industrial wastewater treatment, stormwater treatment, agricultural wastewater treatment, acid mine drainage, sludge destabilization, and contaminated leachates. And there are types of constructed wetlands based on the flow of the water. For example, there are some free water surface flow wetlands, subsurface flow constructed wetlands, and vertical flow wetlands. And there are, of course, the advantages of the constructed wetlands and, of course, disadvantages. Reliable total suspended solid COD and nitrogen treatment efficiency, the simplicity of the method, low construction costs, no need for high technological equipment, low energy maintenance, formation of wildlife habitat, use of the biomass of harvested aquatic plants are the advantages of constructed wetlands. However, there are some disadvantages, as I said before. For example, the high land area requirements for one person, for example, it starts from minimum 1 square meter and it can go up to 10 square meter. And sometimes they can be also the breeding grounds for insects, and climatic constraints are also there. Necessity of a receiving water body as for the treatment plants, this is also needed. And there are some possible expenses of the constructed wetland applications. The engineering design of the constructed wetland project, land cost, excavation, sealing material, fill medium, we call it also as substrate, distribution and drainage pipes, plantation, water collection tanks, submersible pumps, control panel equipment, and the workers. Of course, you can also add the plantation cost, so for the plants. And so I decided really to work on such a study, feasibility of a controlled wetland in the Mogan and Eimer system. It was my master thesis, where I was simulating where I was using a model for constructed wetlands, and in order to remove the nitrogen and phosphorus efficiency, so the nitrogen and phosphorus levels in a lake, in a eutrophicated lake, I was suggesting to the government such a system. Okay, so what will happen, for example, if we can just have some constructed wetlands on the top of the on the top of the rivers, for example, which are feeding the Mogan Lake in Ankara. So when I finished my master thesis, then I was really feeling passion also with this constructed wetlands, because very few people were working in Turkey at that time also on the constructed wetlands. So my dream was, as we had it also in our master course, to apply really a pilot scale constructed wetlands at the university campus. Then again, I convinced two of the professors in my university, one from the biology department, one from the environmental engineering department. By the way, I studied in biotechnology, my PhD. The study was to quantify the effects of different field mediums on the treatment performance of the pilot scale subsurface constructed wetlands, which were planted with the common reed and operated identically with pre-settled domestic wastewater. I will just skip it very fast. So there you can use in constructed wetlands different kind of field media. There are some spatial substrates, for example. One of them is the nature ones, and the other one is the artificial ones. And there are also some co-produced as industrial waste. And we are looking for higher aluminum, iron, and calcium content, higher porosity, suitable infiltration capacity, and reasonable price, so that we can have higher organic and nutrient removal efficiencies, and a decrease in the required surface area for constructed wetlands per capita is needed. Then I was just doing some batch scale experiments in order to compare the efficiencies, the absorption capacities of pumice and blast furnace granulated slag. And this blast furnace granulated slag from Turkey, from the Black Sea region, it was just showing slightly differences, and it was showing higher efficiencies. Thus, I was contacting them and just asking for a sponsorship, because at that time, the people, they were not thinking about such kind of projects. So they were just thinking, it's kind of funny, you know, so what are you doing? So ecotechnology. Therefore, I couldn't find any fund for my PhD research, but I didn't give up. So I continued to contact the people. So as an industrial waste, the blast furnace granulated slag was used also within my system. Of course, we had lots of also experience and also funny memories, and some of them are not so funny memories, you know. I was going to the field and I was just looking for the manhole, and we had to build something in the manhole so that we were able to just pump the wastewater, and I had to find also sedimentation tanks and excavate and blah blah blah. Yeah. So here are some pictures and some cross sections where I was using mainly two type of the constructed wetland systems. The first one was the vertical flow one, where you can apply the wastewater through the perforated pipes, and you have different layers of the substrate. And the second basin, we can call them also as constructed wetland beds. So it was horizontal flow. Both of them have different treatment ideas. For example, in the first one, you can have the nitrification, and in the second one, you can have the denitrification. And here are some pictures from that application. Okay, so, but for example, what happened was the first pump, it was stolen by the gypsies, for example, from the field. I was crying because it was difficult for me to buy the pump, but then afterwards I had to also find another sponsorship to find this pump. And for the sedimentation tanks, I was lucky enough when I was going to the recycling activity area. So I found 2 identical old boilers, you know, and we cleaned them and we redesigned them as sedimentation tanks. So we were able to put them also into the field. And of course, I didn't have workers because I didn't have too much money for paying them. So my dear friends, they helped me. You know, I was asking my assistant friends and the students from the student clubs of my university, and we were applying this step by step. Okay, so within the field. Okay, I'm just going very fast because I don't have very much time. So you see here some of the pictures. Some application of the also drainage pipes and so on. And I had to lose 1 year because of this reed plants. Everybody was saying, okay, it's so easy to plant them. Really just resist and so on. But I lost really 1 year because of the plantation. We were planting them and they didn't survive. And afterwards I had to really tube them, you know, so like the tree, baby trees, like the seedlings, and 1,000 of them, we had to keep it also in the greenhouse at my university campus. And but afterwards again, so we were just planting them. After a month, after applying the real domestic wastewater, they were happy. So I was able to continue with my research. I was going there every day and just giving some wastewater, not some wastewater, 3 cubic meter per each of the beds. I was applying the domestic wastewater after the sedimentation. It was because it was totally 6 cubic meter per day, so it was almost like a little treatment plant for 60 person, and it is one of the pioneering studies also for constructed wetlands in Turkey. And after 1 year, the plants were really growing, and I was applying the wastewater, for example, with a hydraulic loading rate 0.11, etc. You can maybe have this presentation afterwards if you are interested. And then I was monitoring the constructed wetlands, and here is a cost analysis. Of course, there are lots of volunteer work, but at that time in 2002, for treatment of totally 6 cubic meter per day, the domestic wastewater, it was around 3,000 euros, 3,000 US dollars, sorry. But the plantation cost, so when you want to apply this, for example, in Europe, then you have to really pay money also for the plantation because you need the baby plants. And the slag was also a gift of the Iron and Steel Company. Therefore, maybe it is not the exact amount, but still you can have an idea. After finishing the monitoring study for 1 year, so that I was able to observe it for 4 seasons, then this is also my lovely father. He was also helping me, and we were removing from the constructed wetlands the plants and the stones, so the substrate, so that I was able to have a mass balance study, you know, so in order to understand what was the treatment effect of the plants and also the substrates on the treatment efficiency. As far as I remember, it was only 10% the effect of the plants on total nitrogen and phosphorus removals. Okay, I'm just going very fast. And here is one of the results for the slag bed and for the gravel bed. Okay, so because I was comparing them. So for the total suspended solids and for COD, there was no statistical difference, you know, so after just looking for 1 year. But for phosphate, phosphorus, total phosphorus, and ammonium nitrogen, the slag content, of course, as I was expecting, much more efficient in comparison to gravel. And for the total nitrogen, there was also no statistical difference. And as a conclusion, I can say for this study indicated that the properly designed and operated subsurface flow constructed wetlands have a great potential for secondary and tertiary wastewater treatment in Turkey. And as being one of the leading studies for implementation of the pilot scale constructed wetlands in Turkey for treating the real domestic wastewater produced by 60%, this study has contributed to the understanding of how subsurface flow constructed wetland systems performed under the prevailing climate in Ankara. And before finishing my PhD, again, there was an opportunity to apply a real, a bigger full-scale constructed wetlands, hybrid constructed wetlands for 450 persons in Şanlıurfa, Viranşehir in 2003. It was because of a project, okay, and the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation was supporting the Chamber of Environmental Engineers of Turkey. So we had the opportunity to apply it in Viranşehir, in this southeastern part of Turkey. Okay, so I was able to design the constructed wetlands depending on my experience from my PhD. So again, we were monitoring, and here is also the schedule, so the plan of the constructed wetland. In this case, I was using the subsurface horizontal flow constructed wetlands in the first treatment stage. Of course, we had again the settling tank and so on. And in that time, so there was nearby a volcanic mountain, and we used the volcanic slag and basalts from the system. And then when we were applying it, first of all, the area was an old municipal solid waste disposal area. Okay, so and we had to rehabilitate the system. And afterwards, we were applying also the clay, impacted clay at the bottom. And again, we were planting. But this time we didn't lose 1 year. So because we had the experience, so we planted again, and there was the opening. But unfortunately, afterwards, there were some problems because of the maintenance and operation. This is also one of the important things we have to keep in mind, I guess. And after finishing my PhD, just before finishing my PhD, I was coming up with the idea, okay, what about establishing my own startup company on constructed wetlands in Turkey? It was in 2003. And I just had some courses also on how to manage this, but according to my business plan, having a private company on constructed wetlands in Turkey in 2003, it was not feasible. I was very upset, but then I was saying, okay, but I really want to continue on working on constructed wetlands. So I just had 2 postdocs. One of them was in Hania in Crete, and the second one was in Vienna as a Marie Curie Fellow for 2 years. Both of them were on constructed wetlands. I just want to give just short information because I don't have too much time, I guess. So I prepared in Hania in 6 months a manual of practice on constructed wetlands for wastewater treatment and reuse in Mediterranean countries. And the objective of the manual was to provide theoretical and practical knowledge of the constructed wetland technology to the engineers, researchers, and stakeholders who are interested in designing, constructing, operating, and using constructed wetlands as an alternative option for water quality enhancement and reuse, especially for small agglomerations in rural areas of several Mediterranean countries. And theoretical background on constructed wetlands has been summarized based on the existing literature, and constructed wetland case studies produced in some of the Mediterranean countries have been reviewed, summarized, and evaluated. And wetland researchers from Mediterranean countries have been contacted and asked to contribute their experience on the design, application, and monitoring of the constructed wetlands. And good practice guidelines have been developed for future constructed wetland applications in the Mediterranean countries. If you wish, you can also find this manual on the website of the ResearchGate. Okay, and the aim of the good practices guidelines was to avoid repetition of the bad experiences gained during the former constructed wetland applications and to minimize failures which can be faced during application and operation maintenance of the constructed wetlands while implementing them in Mediterranean countries. Okay, so the manual was about 400 pages. It had an introduction, historical development, and some of the constructed wetland studies in the Mediterranean region, the good practices guidelines and results. And some recommendations, of course, the references and appendices. And some of the outcomes of the manual, it was the great majority of the governments or relevant agencies of the Mediterranean countries did not accept constructed wetlands as a state of the treatment technology when it was first introduced. However, at the end of the 1980s, several research studies on constructed wetlands have started in most of the Mediterranean countries by private companies, research institutes, and universities. And as a result, in the middle of the 1990s, several installations of constructed wetland applications treating wastewater originated from the individual houses, small agglomerations, industries, agricultural runoff, farms, touristic facilities existed in the Mediterranean region. And the industrial wastewaters treated in constructed wetlands in Mediterranean countries were also different, yes. And the hybrid system were gaining popularity. And in addition to those, the different kinds of constructed wetlands to the treatment line of the conventional treatment plants become an important issue. Okay, and maybe we can discuss it later, I don't know, but as most of the speakers were saying on decentralized treatment systems, the wetland researchers also in those countries must identify their own specific research needs and develop appropriate strategies based on local parameters. And they have to develop proper design and operation criteria specific to each of the countries, and interdisciplinary teams should be formed among the specialists coming from different disciplines. They should be able to handle the current and future wastewater treatment and reuse problems using the constructed wetland technology, and the teams may be both national and international, and they have to develop action-oriented cooperation. I guess I don't have too much time, so maybe we can really discuss them also later on. But what I was also suggesting is the pilot and full-scale constructed wetland demonstration projects are very important also in the region, and you have to also continue with several experiments under varying real conditions. Okay, so. And last, I want to say I continued in Vienna with this study, optimization. It was a European Union project also, optimization of nutrient removal in constructed wetlands using spatial substrates and numerical solutions. I don't want to say, okay, so and the objective of the ONRAM was to quantify the effect of different natural and artificial substrates that are commercially available in the markets of Turkey and Austria on the removal performance of nutrients of the lab-scale vertical flow of constructed wetlands to be operated identically with municipal wastewater at the Technicum of Boku in Vienna in Austria. It was the scheme of the lab-scale setup. And here you see different kinds of materials. I have to be really very quick. Okay, so this was also from the laboratory. And this study was also showing us working with real municipal wastewater is very important. And also most of the substrates, they were also showing higher ammonium removal efficiencies. And we put also those kind of results into the multi-component reactive transport model, constructed wetlands 2-dimensional, that was developed by Günther Langergraber from Boku, Vienna. And we use them also for simulation studies. And these simulated effluent flow rates have showed very close matches to the measured effluent flow rates. And findings of this work have increased the available input model data for different filter media for constructed wetlands, so that the constructed wetlands two-dimensional model can be used as a practical design tool to optimize the size of the constructed wetlands. Okay, this is my last slide. It was a bit fast, but as conclusion, constructed wetlands can really play a very important role in water resources management and sustainability in our region. However, constructed wetland technology is also not a zero energy and fix and forget wastewater treatment system. Moreover, constructed wetlands are not simply made up with stands, stones, pipes, and magic plants eating all the pollutants. The design and its application needs sophisticated and interdisciplinary approach. Nevertheless, my own experience on constructed wetlands in Turkey indicated that properly designed and operated constructed wetlands really have great potential for secondary and tertiary wastewater treatment in Turkey and in developing countries in the near future, if, of course, the legislation allows. Okay, thank you so much for your attention. And if you have any question, I will be pleased to just listen to your comments and question. I am struggling. Okay. Yes, great. Yes.
Aslan, thank you very much for your presentation. Obviously, you have done so much. It's really hard to fit into 15 minutes. That's quite understandable. Thank you very much. I have a couple of questions in my mind about maintenance of the wetlands, but I think we can leave it to later. I just want to say, using blast furnace, granulated slag, or any type of industrial, let's say, waste or resource byproduct in such a system, I think it's a very nice example of a circular economy model that we can, combine industrial waste management into nature-based solutions like this. I think that was very impressive from my side. If we have any questions, please just go ahead, please. Yes.
Hello, Aslan.
Hi, Tiasha. Nice to see you, my old friend.
Yes. So my question would be, you gather so much knowledge, so much experiences, so much enthusiasm. And what is the status quo today in Turkey? How you would comment on that? Okay. Sorry.
You know what? After coming back from Vienna, I was really feeling very much so energetical, and I have been to Minister of Environment, and I was saying, please, can we just write the legislation on this topic? And they were saying, okay, just come and just give us also some lectures, and I was giving some lectures and some recommendations and so on. But afterwards, they, you know what? So. When you have to build your wastewater treatment plants in the cities of Turkey by the governments, I mean by the municipalities, so you don't have too much chance also to build your own treatment plant, because the legislation is in a way not allowing you, and because I saw that it is not feasible, because in comparison also to the other packaging system, treatment system, it is not anymore feasible, so it is not anymore cost effective. We had also some applications, but the thing is, if the treatment system is becoming a bit so simpler, then really the people are thinking to start in that way, and they don't pay too much attention. I saw also some of the constructed wetlands, some application afterwards made by the government, but it was not functioning because they didn't have any idea about it. Because therefore it was my last presentation slide on, it is not a fix and forget system, it is not a magic system, or it's not so simple. Okay, it looks like so simple, but still it is very difficult for the people maybe who are living together, for example, like in eco villages. It might start again in that way. In Europe, as far as I remember, for example, in Austria, it was like this. For the communities with the people of less than 2,000 people, the communities had to build their own treatment plants by themselves. They had to charge, they had to pay the money, for the treatment plant. Therefore, the constructed wetlands or such kind of nature-based treatment system were also an option. But in that case, in Turkey, we still don't have such a thing. Usually for septic tanks are used, you know? But little by little, now I guess it is changing. This is my
Okay,
opinion.
thank you. So yeah, I hope all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions for Osman?
Maybe, hello, can you see me?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
also
Okay.
just
Hello, good to see you. Good to see you again. Tiasha, regarding your, by the way, good to see you, Tiasha, again. Another my colleague. I'm so honored to be with them also, to be here. One more small comment. I don't want to take your so much time in here. Actually, the wastewater treatment legislation, have been improving in Turkey, but depending on some local conditions and local legislation properties, if you want to apply a new project, it's getting some time. For instance, circularity or circular assessment is a kind of a new topic, and a couple of days ago or the weeks ago, Ministry of Environment has been, launching a kind of, the auction or as a kind of, the special topic calls. Where on the government level, you can see some improvements, but in the local level, when you talk to municipalities or the local governments, I mean, there are still some, barriers. First, you need to go over or you need to pass these barriers. But what I believe, actually, Osman has also mentioned, and time by time, I think we are in the position to go over these barriers, a kind of projects just like, the Ekodenge or, the INNOQUA. I mean, I think these are the much more opportunities also from our cost section allow us to pass these opportunities to apply these, the barriers. This is what I believe. Thank you.
Volkan, thank you. I also think success stories are very important to push this kind of agenda forward in terms of the decision-making processes, especially if they are as slow as the ones in Turkey. So it's always good to have this type of funding from European Commission, from R&D funds to showcase what you can do. And this is one of the things that INNOQUA project tried to do all around the globe, to be honest. So I don't know if we have any questions. I can see no hands, so I think we can move on with Eli's presentation. So Eli Cohen is our final speaker. He's the founder and CEO of INNOQUA and Ecology in Tel Aviv, Israel. The company specializes in holistic planning for rural and urban wastewater management and purification of water and soil. So Eli, we are eager to listen to your presentation on intensifying natural processes to treat wastewater. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. And hi, Asuma. It was great hearing you after many years not seeing you. And it took me many years back hearing your experiences and struggling. It was amazing. Thank you for that. I spoke to David just a few weeks ago, and he asked me to share my experiences in this field. And these fields go back 30 years ago. And I want to talk about nature-based solution as not something that can, people still think that it's something that kind of in the air, it's not, it's something of the future, but it's not. It's here, it's possible, and we have to do that. Actually, we don't have any other choice. It's something that if we won't do, we lose the humanity. Planet should remain here, but we as humanity might disappear because we're talking about climate change. And the only way to fight climate change is actually by changing our ways. Changing our ways means using less energy, meaning less destruction of the green cover of Earth, which we're doing all the time. We're using enormous quantity of energy, and this balance between energy and water, this nexus, is keep on hanging around, and it's a spiral that never ends. We treat more water, we use more energy, and we don't have a chance to change this balance or regain the balance that we used to have in the past. And by using the nature-based approach, this is the only way to do it. Using no energy, no chemicals, and using only nature. God bless us with a lot of laws of the thermodynamics and nature that we can use and do amazing, amazing work around us. And I want to show you some examples of how it's worked. But before that, our solution, we call it the NBS. It's for many years already. We call it the natural biological system. And today people use it as the nature-based solution, which actually it's okay with us. It's a trademark, but it's we are happy that it's actually take its place. And it's we see it as a game-changing technology. And it's true, people ask how it's being accepted by the regulators. It's still hard everywhere in the world, not only in my country, in Turkey, everywhere, because there's a lot of interest involved in it. And big companies don't want it to happen because it changed the game. It's a game changer. And to penetrate, it takes time. But the conditions now are for us. So we need to use it and go ahead and just show the cases and move ahead fast. And our approach is also holistic. It's not only about treating water. It's about approaching the entire watershed. I'll show you some examples, and then you understand what I'm talking about. And again, like I said before, it's about law of nature's thermodynamics, zero energy in the system itself, and no chemicals and negligible human involvement. Because systems are usually tend to fail when it's come to maintenance, and we try to avoid it. Let nature do play its role. And in general, this is the picture of how it works. We can see this the system. We're using the gravity. We're using the root zone over here, where we're having this chemical, biological, and physical filtration happening all together, all in a natural way. Very effective. We all know how it's works. Plants introduce oxygen to the root zone, exudates all together. The volume of activity in this area is 1,000 times more than in a activated sludge, for example. Very effective, very efficient, and everything is degradable. You just need to play with, rightly with the components. I'm talking about the hydrology, which is very important. Talking about the plants, talking about the substrates, the gravel. Talking about the additives that we're adding, natural ones, all together create a very powerful system, and the root zone, and that can do anything we want. We just need to design it properly. And it's also about water harvesting, stormwater harvesting, treating them, recharging the aquifers. It's about preventing floods. It's about reducing the temperatures in the urban area. Let's see an example. This is something that we designed for the city of Delhi. Actually, it's a state of Delhi, New Delhi, in India. This is the Yamuna River. You know the name, goes to the Ganges, and this is a big drain running into the river. We got a mandate to treat the sewage coming out from all this area. It's a big area. It's about 8 kilometers length on this stretch, and it's about 8 million people living in this area. 8 million people. And they don't have a solution. All the sewage running freely down here, filling the Yamuna, which is very dirty. They don't have the aquifer being pumped to death. It's very low. No sources of clean water. Temperatures goes up. They're facing floods every monsoon time because nothing stops the rainwater from running down. And and people just living here in a hell. And we design a system that give answers actually to all the problems at once. We created the tree of life, and actually we treat the sewage on site close to source. And we, as part of the landscape, using gravity, only gravity, and we reduced the conveyance system dramatically, almost to zero. No centralized, all of course decentralized. We creating actually a beautiful park over here. People actually can walk from the Yamuna to their home through a park without even thinking about and not having to go through any street or highway that can, and people are being killed every day there in numbers. And opening this green corridor over here, we call it the Eco Trail and the Green Belt. And it's in the same time, it's holding rainwater, treat them, stormwater, treat them on site, recharging the aquifer with the clean water. treat the sewage water in this area. On this stretch, we calculated can treat 250 million liters a day, which is a huge quantity of water. 250,000 cubic meter, if you want it in cubic meter. And it's, of course, it's because don't use any energy. It's reduced the temperatures, and it's a very powerful carbon footprint reduction, carbon absorption. And just keep in mind that wetlands are much more effective than forest in harvesting carbon from the air, almost 100 times more effective, which is very, very important to remember. So if we fabricate the city with many systems like that, things about the change, and it's all as part of your landscape. We call it the active landscape. So actually, you don't actually change the city; you add to it. You don't change people's life; you add to it, and it's much faster to build, and it's much easier to build. It's much cheaper in the end of the day, and the water quality you get is very, very high and it's stable. It's very, very important to keep it in mind. And this is how things looks after it's being built. Look at this, beautiful parks in the part of your landscape. But it's not only about domestic; it's also about industrial. We have many examples that just didn't go. I just brought you a few. This is a food production factory down in southern part of big company, southern of India, in Tamil Nadu, working for 5 years beautifully, very hard water. Sugar cane plant, very hard, one of the hardest in the world to treat. Talking about 250,000 COD, milligram of COD. Dairy factory for cheese. This is one for textile company in north of Mumbai, and it's all working for many years, very efficient, and we save them a fortune. And why the industries go for it? Because they have to. They force them, and this is the most economical solution that you can think about. And the quality is getting better and better through the years. And we're having experience with so many others in industries, cosmetic, pharmaceutical, even radioactive elements we harvest and we treat. Now let's go to the domestic. I think Volkan, you spoke about the what's called the green city, something like that. We are doing it. We are doing it, and also actually Delhi is going to look like that. It takes some time, but in the end of the day, it's something like that. You take the sewage from this neighborhood, you treat it over here in this gardens, and then you use it the ornamental pond, very clean water, and in the end of the day, it's go for irrigating the entire area over here. This is another. This is one is in Israel, in New Tel Aviv. This is in the mountains, 2,500 meters in India, in the southern part. Beautiful, very old school. They build already 2 systems for a big one, and now they're building another 2. Very happy, and it's treating. And they're talking about the thousands of children. So it's a very high class school. So it's working very, very efficiently, and they're very happy with it. We having, of course, there are much more, but I want to show you many people talk about the on-site solutions. And I want to show you something we developed. We call it the portable system and the EcoLine and the one. It's a small system, goes for the private house one. We call it the EcoLine 1 through the EcoLine 2, 3, 4. And up to the portable NBS, which is actually containers, special containers, come to the site, being pulled up, put on the site on a platform that you prepared in advance, and it just you treat water. We develop it in request to people that ask for to supply good water to villages. Many villages all around the world. I'm talking about millions of them. Not having a good water anymore. All the water sources that they used to have are contaminated now. So we are treating this sewage, this water from this source by natural way. Again, no chemicals, no energy. It's all by gravity, and you have clean water coming out. And in the end of the day, And now we developed another element that you can add to the outlet, so we can treat something like 10, 15, or 20% of the water to a quality of drinking water, drink quality, by using special element that actually, like a biological magnet that harvests the pathogenic element from the water, and you have zero E. coli in the outlet, and the rest of the water goes being used for irrigation, whatever you want to. And we have these different sizes, and it's again completely sustainable, energy-free, chemical-free, and it can last many years forward. And it also can treat your sewage afterward and protect your aquifers. And then this is the bigger one. It can treat up to 40 cubic meter per day. It's quite big. But you have the smaller sizes. You can see them over here. The Ecoline 3, the 2, the portable in different places, and it's all doing the job very efficiently. Just to summarize. This is a must. It's not anymore kind of trees hugging fashion. It's about changing the rules over here, the game rules over here, and we have to do that. It's a must because we cannot keep on using energy as we used before, and of course people are looking for something that will be also social, system that will be part of our life, not something that we have to put a part of. We don't have any nuisance like smell or noise, just part of our lives that's existing near our place. And this is again, I'm saying this is the future, and you are in the field, and I'm happy that I happened to meet David and speak to him in order to show the potential. And it will be lovely to keep in touch with all of you and just to push it forward. If you have any questions, please do.
I'm checking the audience for questions. Well, in the meantime, Eli, this was a very impressive presentation. Thank you very much. So the changes that happened, to see them, it's very eye-opening. To be honest, and also I think you had a very good point about cutting the dependence on the water and energy, the energy-water nexus. It's very important within the framework MBS. Of course, we are concentrating more today on water management, but we should always be aware that MBS can be great tools for climate adaptation for the cities and rural communities. I think this was also mentioned a couple of times in previous presentations. Thank you very much. I'm just looking at the audience again for any questions. Yes, Volkan Hocam, please.
Shalom Ali, Manishma.
Hi.
Hi. Good to hear your presentation. Eli, thank you for the presentation. I have a question. I spent some years in Israel while I was doing my postdoc in Sedeboker. And during my postdoc studies, I'm talking about just 7 and 8 years ago, I have also seen some, green zone applications that you presented in Israel. And during this time, I mean, these applications were a kind of a new or novel approach was taken in the country. What is the current situation right now? Or I'm talking about 10 years after more going on. How shall the country can adapt these nature-based solutions in that way? And what is the, the legal status or any kind of governmental application?
It's a good question. Actually, it's strange, but it's getting harder and harder to implement it because of, since we started doing it in the beginning, there was no problem. We have done many dozens, and if you've been to Sedeboker, Nootz Madar, and in this area, we have done many systems in this area in the south and in the midst of Israel. And in the beginning, there was no opposition. Today, there is opposition by the water company that don't want it to happen, because actually we actually penetrating into the market. And you think about it, if you do this one, there's no need for conveyance system, piping, pumping, etc. It's a different ball game. So it's not easy, but I can feel a change now. And we're doing mainly in Israel. We're doing mainly industries because they don't have a choice, and we do it as inside the industries. We're doing it for remote villages. We're doing now rivers. We're doing protecting rivers from incoming sewage along the rivers, on the edge of it, and in different places. And we're doing lakes in different places. And we've found our niche, but we're pushing forward the urban one. And I believe that there is an open eye, especially now after this, with this Corona stuff. People understand that there's a limit to the technology. With all the respect, this small virus kind of paralyzed the world, and there is a limit to what we can do with technology. So we need to give more place to nature, and still not affecting our lifestyle. It's not going one against other. So it can live together. So I think there is a change in the air for your question.
As far as I know, there are some kibbutz located in the south side of the country.
North Madar, yeah.
This
is my systems over there. So it's beautiful.
And they started applying these types of technologies. But yeah, I mean, you can see some, initiatives, not only, the only.
No, you're right. We've done a lot of work, and it's working beautifully. It was also, we were used to be part of the COST in the past. Someone remember that, and it was published in the COST group for years ago, almost 15 years ago already. Yeah, we have done a lot of work, and it's working till today, getting better and better. And it's actually, we've done more than 200 systems already, but it's still nothing compared to the need. I'm talking about Israel. Also outside, we've done quite a lot.
Okay, Toda Alba. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also have a question. Is about your portable systems. Can you tell us a little bit more, eventually showing some other pictures, or which is the size, or how you deal with it, with the portability of a system like that?
I'll give you the background. I was approached by some volunteer, an NGO years ago, asked me if he can treat water in villages in Africa, for example. And I said, no problem, of course. But then I was thinking to myself, to send people to every village in the world to build a system, it's impossible. Then I was thinking about building something that you can send over. And I was thinking about the container. This is something that can reach today almost any place in any corner in the world. So we took this platform and we built on this system. Of course, it's built in a special way. It's got a special height, especially the hydrology inside is well designed, etc. And it's being sent as a container with substrate already inside, with all the hydrology systems inside. You just take it to the size and pull it out. I'm talking about 20 feet containers and the 40 feet containers as well. We have the different variation. The most popular one is the 20 feet, and it's reached it's a 6 meter and to 2.5 to 2.4 meter width, and the height of it is something like 85 centimeters. Each pond, and altogether it carries something like 40 square meters, and it can treat between 4 to 40 cubic meter per day, depending on what's coming in. If it's just a semi-contaminated river or lake, it can be up to 40 cubic meter a day, which is something like can reach also almost 400 people or 600 people supply of water, even more than that. So it's very efficient and it's lasts long. And there is like Asman talk about the pump that was stolen. We don't have any pump to steal. It's just it's there. Nobody will take anything. So this is the idea. I mean, do it simple. That's the idea. I hope I answered your question, Germain.
Well, yes, but I'm still. I would like to see more information. I was looking at your website and couldn't find for the moment. Couldn't find some.
No, you're right. I mean, I'll send you. Send me. I mean, I can send it to all the group. You can send me the mails, and I'll send you.
Email. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
No problem. You'll get it. You're welcome.
Costel?
Yes. What would be the lowest temperature limit for the system to perform without punishing treatment performance?
Wherever you have plants, the system will function. The water never freeze in the root zone. Think about it. And we have an article about it. We can send it to you that we wrote, because we have approaches from all over the world. north of China, north of North America, etc. And the people ask about temperature. Well, if the centralized STP working, functioning, and the open system, why this one won't work? This is actually a closed system. The subsurface flow, don't have any open water. Water coming in is a higher temperature. There is almost no loss of temperature in the system itself. And when the breakup of the contaminants, you have it's exothermic reaction. So you have energy and heat being released. It's never freeze. It's working very efficiently. And the population of microorganisms work in any temperature. You just need to give it a, because it's not, in thermodynamics, it's not only about temperature. It's about the pressure. It's about the concentration of different kind of microorganisms, quantities, etc. So it's altogether create a very powerful and efficient and stable system.
Yes, please, David.
Yeah, it's a question I shared with the panelists behind the scenes, but it relates to the promise of algal technologies. I'm not an expert on algae, but my perception as a non-expert is that the promise is always 5 years, 10 years, only in certain situations with a high insulation. So there's lots of capability, but I'm not seeing that capability coming through to market-ready solutions. So I just wondered if any of the panelists would like to comment on that particular question. Will algae meet their promise, or do you think they have already met their promise in certain situations that we just need to raise the awareness of?
I think the microalgae-based wastewater treatment technology has a good future. However, it has to be stated that you cannot talk about using microalgae for wastewater treatment. You can only say that you are using microalgae and bacteria for wastewater treatment. You cannot separate the two, because this is one of the main reasons I think the progress of the microalgae-based technology is progressing hard, because everybody is looking at the development of the microalgae-based technology for wastewater treatment as they are used in cultivation of microalgae in algal ponds. So the future is either biofilm or granular shape activated algae, meaning these are the main solutions that offer the possibility of avoiding expensive harvesting techniques, meaning that the biofilm, if it detaches from the platforms, you can easily separate, or the granules have a very, very high settling velocity, similar to the granular activated sludge, which means that within 1 minute, you get 99.99% of the microalgae settled within the system. And we do have a project ongoing, which just started 1 month ago, which is called the GRAL recovery, meaning granular activated algae recovery, which is a process for main wastewater treatment, meaning using the microalgae-based granular activated algae as the main treatment option for wastewater, mainly municipal, and with the possibility of recovering the resources from the residual biomass, which should be of greater value than the one of activated algae alone, activated sludge alone.
Thank you, Costel. I'm going to, I'll abuse the privilege, Özge, if I might, and ask a bit of a cheeky follow-up question.
Sure.
Both for you, Costel, and also for Eli, because Eli, your presentation was extremely inspiring, just to show us how these things can be implemented and that they work. So the question really is, why aren't we doing it? And so the follow-up from Costel is, are these kind of algae systems, the other systems we're talking about, just unnecessarily complicated? We know how to treat wastewater using nature-based systems. Should we not just be focusing on implementation and further uptake of the existing straightforward wetland type systems?
Well, algae, for a question, algae is a very important component of the system, but for myself, I am against monoculture. I believe in a hybrid system and polyculture, and to depend on only one on organism to do the work for you, it's very dangerous, and it's also need a lot of energy. Think about it, if you want to grow your garden only with roses, you know how much energy you need to put into it to keep on harvesting the other one. So I think that algae will come there anyway, will be there anyway. If you want it or not, you can leave some open places in the system for algae, for specific things, if you know that it can do something specific, but not only to build the system only on this one. This is my project.
Thank you.
May I also comment the algae topic? So I think that these high-rate algae ponds and the similar systems that based on algae should also be looked as a perspective, not only as a wastewater treatment plant, but as a system that produces algae as a product. So if you can sell this algae as something, as a bioproduct that you gained from wastewater, then it has a future, I think. I know that there are also Horizon projects that are working on production algae biomass and then producing bioplastic from the polymers that are stored in the algae. So these are then some products with high added value, and this can then also maybe cover the energy expenses that you have with breeding the algae.
I have to say you're very much right. I mean, 12 years old, I was involved in these farms that used to grow algae because they were looking for the biofuel. The price of oil was very high at that time. So the oil from the biofuel from algae was the top interest in that time. But now, but maybe if you have others uses for the algae, of course, you're right. It can be a byproduct of it, treating water. You're right.
Or as a biostimulants in agriculture for better growth of plants. This is also research that is going on, and to produce these phycocyanins, the colors, the pigments from the algae. Right. These are different products.
You're right. You're right, and then you don't have to invest in feeding the algae. Actually,
yeah,
they do the job. Yeah, you're right. It's a win-win game.
Okay. Thank you for this question and answers. I would like to ask Tommy if you have some questions, because maybe you raised hands and I didn't realize.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. My camera's not working just with my IT setup.
Sorry for not noticing it. Sorry for the delay. Okay. Please go ahead.
It's quite all right. No, thank you very much for your for the invite and for the presentations. They're very interesting. I work with Irish Water. We're a new utility in Ireland. So I just want to know, Eli, how did you get your buy-in for the decentralized sewage treatment systems for individuals? Like, was it through like licensing or legislation? Or, you know, did you kind of, was it a partnership approach, and just how were they managed then and maintained?
Talking about the system, well, you ask how did I get into it, or how do I move it forward, kind of?
Yeah, like how did you get buy-in from the different operators? So you showed a number of examples there from industries. You know, what was there?
I think it's, well, my background is physics and thermodynamics. I was working, I was working in this high-tech company leading the R&D over there, and I bought my farm in the Galilee in Israel. And suddenly I figured out that I want to be a farmer, actually. I left everything and started do farming. And I didn't know what I'm getting into. But luckily I got somehow very fast into aquatic plants, and I started working with water. I used to export plants to Europe, to Japan in that time. We were one of the biggest growers of aquatic plants, talking about 25 years ago. But by working with water, you understand very fast that actually whatever you learn or you hear from other people in Europe, other places, don't catch, because in every ecological area, it's different condition, you have to adapt and you have to change and you have to tailor the solution for each place. So a lot of knowledge start build up. And also I found out that whatever I learned in thermodynamics and physics play a very important role in what I'm doing. So it's intuitively, I learned many things, I did it, I tried it. And then I found out that the power of nature it's amazing, it can do anything. And today I'm not afraid to touch anything because I know that it can work. You just need to tailor it in the right way. I mean, it's a combination of, it's like someone said before, it looks simple, but it's not. It's I need to do it right. I mean, if you don't do it right, then first of all, it's clogged. Later on, you have many other problems. So you need to tailor the system in the right way to start with, and you need experience. But and it's something that you can learn. Just need to be on the field and touch, put your fingers in, and after a while you start feeling it. And this is the way to do it. I mean, and more people will do that. Change will be here. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's good. Your demonstration project in India. I'm wondering how you got the various companies and industries, dairy companies and textiles and sugarcane. How do they buy into your vision of creating the green tree of life?
Well, I found that people on average love the idea. They really love the idea, and they're really willing to buy it. But later on, when it's come to actually implement it, a lot of when they're reaching the government and the regulators, etc., questions start coming up, and then the story actually starts. But only the people who really believe and trust you go ahead with it. Of course, when the numbers goes up, you have more people that actually willing to try. But it was hard in the beginning, very hard. I mean, to get into it and to make it change. But I feel that it's over there, and you can do it by publication and PR. Actually, it asked about India. I didn't put 1 rupee in publication and PR. I don't know how, but people just heard about it and came to us, and I gave talks here and there, and people just liked the idea and they invited me, and it's kind of grow. And today we're working all over India, and we're just doing a big project, and also in South America, in Peru, in Chile, and other places. Now we're doing nothing with the corona, but this is a different story. Just we're really kind of here, but it's okay. It's time out to do other things over here. But but it's something that you need to believe in it. First of all, you need to believe in it, to trust yourself, and to go on. And you have a lot of obstacles on the way, but keep on moving if you really want to do it and make a change.
So thank you for your patience. It's been a wonderful event, even if it was online, but still it was very informative, very impressive, all of the presentations. I would like to thank all of the organizers, David, Costel and Christoph, and also all of our speakers for being here today, just answering all these questions, being so interactive. Thank you to all the participants. I don't know if Costel or Germain, would you like to have some closing words for the conference?
From my side, thank you, Özge. From my side, yes, indeed, it was very, very interesting, and it's nice to see people working in similar direction that we are doing, and so we are not alone. And I think I would really like to keep in touch with all of you. So if as you said, Özge, if we have the emails of everyone and other contacts, I'm very happy to have you in my agenda, and of course share more information and future possibilities of working together, because we don't stop working. So very nice event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And a big clap for the facilitator, for Özge. I think you did a very good job.
Thank you. I try. Thank you. Thank you all for this wonderful time again. So I think, as Germain said, if nobody has any objections for us sharing the email addresses, we would be happy to stay in touch with all of you. Very nice to meet you for the ones that I haven't known. And I see that we have brought together old friends as well. So that was another privilege that we have today. Have a great afternoon and talk to you soon, hopefully. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.